Call to order the Tuesday, October 20th meeting of the Avalon City Council. Denise, may we please have the roll call?
Councilmember Cassidy? Here. Councilmember Hernandez?
Here.
Councilmember Sampson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson?
Here.
And Mayor Marshall.
Here. And if we would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, to be led by Assistant Harbor Master J.J. Poindexter. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you may be seated. Well, have a small intermission. Did you hear the one about
Sorry, Mayor.
That's okay. Announcements?
I don't have any this evening, Mayor.
Okay, written communications.
Yes, you should have an item related to agenda item number 7 in your packet, hard copy provided.
Yes, thank you. Okay, presentations.
We have 3 this evening. We have one to start off with, to Choices, acknowledging their annual Red Ribbon Week. Mayor, are you going to be reading that this evening?
Councilmember Sampson will be reading that this evening.
Very good. Is Rhonda Kalish here tonight with us? Or we just read it into the record, Denise, do you know?
Just read it in the, yes.
Okay, very
She
good.
might just be running.
Should we do that now?
Sure.
Okay, I'd be honored to do this. This is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Avalon for Red Ribbon Week. Whereas the City of Avalon values the health and safety of all of our citizens, and whereas substance abuse is particularly damaging in one of our most valuable resources, our children, and whereas it is the goal of Red Ribbon Week and the City of Avalon to involve families, schools, businesses, churches, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations in all aspects of the campaign, and establish an atmosphere that supports awareness, education, and ongoing initiatives to prevent illegal drug use. And whereas the Red Ribbon Campaign was established by Congress in 1988 to promote this belief and encourage a drug-free lifestyle and involvement in drug prevention efforts. And whereas the Red Ribbon Week theme promotes family and individual responsibilities for healthy living, drug-free lifestyles without illegal drugs or illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas there are many activities planned during the Red Ribbon Week campaign in Avalon. Now, therefore, the Avalon City Council does hereby proclaim October 26th to the 30th, 2015 as Red Ribbon Week in Avalon, and encourages all citizens, businesses, public and private agencies, media, religious and educational institutions to wear and display red ribbons and participate in drug-free activities throughout the week, and to join us in promoting the Red Ribbon celebration and a drug-free Avalon. Dated this 20th day of October, Mayor Annie Marshall and all of us City Council members, Cindy Cassidy, Richard Hernandez, Ole Olson, and myself, Joe Sampson. And we thank you for participating in this.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Can I ask a question? It says there are many activities planned during this Red Ribbon Week. Can you tell us any of those activities that might be planned?
We have not been privy to those.
We do have a preview of those?
No, I haven't been privy to those. I
Okay.
think most of them are
Maybe-
initiated out of the school. We were expecting Ron to hear, but I don't know what
Okay.
happened.
Well, maybe if we find out before the meeting's over, we'll make an announcement on that,
What's
okay?
going on? That's nice.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, presentation number 2.
Yes, our contract landfill overseer, waste provider, waste hauler, whatever we want to call the term, Avalon Environmental, aka CR&R, is here to provide us with an update. Mr. Dean Ruffage is at the podium, and once he gets his presentation squared away,
Jordan,
we will get underway.
Good evening, Mayor Marshall, members of the City Council. Again, my name is Dean Ruffridge, and I'm with CR&R from the mainland. And with me tonight is Maria Lazarick, our Director of Sustainability and Compliance. And of course, everybody knows our resident General Manager, Steve Beatty. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Wish we could have come a couple months ago, but we wanted to get through the summer, and we had a couple other things going on. So we are tardy, and I apologize for our updates. Tonight we want to give you a few updates on the Third Amendment that we signed with you about a year ago. We want to talk about current legislation pertaining to organics. We want to talk about some issues that Mr. Beatty has had around the neighborhood. And with that, I'll go ahead. The first slide that I have in front of you is an update regarding progress on 4 specific items of the Third Amendment. The first one is the baler reconstruction. That is complete. We've installed a 200 horsepower motor there. It was a 50 or 60 horsepower, if you remember. We are now baling and making bales that are 2,100 pounds, which is almost double what they were from the previous baler. And so that, if you remember, some of you that were here at the time, that should significantly extend the life of our landfill. The rain gutters has been my issue for the last 14 months, and I wish it wasn't. I've let 2 contracts to different contractors, and they have both failed on me. I have a third contractor that comes highly recommended from the city. They just did some work for you recently. It was called Western States, I think, some steel work, and they have supposedly sent me tonight a proposal, and they're ready to start. So I really want to get that done before we have this quote-unquote rainy season coming this
They did a good
winter.
job with us, so
That's what I heard, yeah.
Yeah.
Came very highly recommended. I think Ben was talking about it. The compactor sales, if you remember in the Third Amendment, we purchased 5 Vertipacks from you that were downtown. And those were purchased. We paid for those. Steve has been reconditioning those and cleaning those up. And the businesses that utilize those, the cost of that has all been spread to them. And between Steve and Joanne, I understand it's 100% and it's going real well. So we're really happy of that going on. The street sweeper, again, another 12-month project, which is mine. Kind of wish it wasn't. But the chassis is going to come in any day. Our biggest problem was that we have 83 inches to work with in a couple of alleys where the poles are, and these trucks are 86 inches wide. So the bodies on these smaller street sweepers had to be modified by about 3 inches. And I'm hoping to have it all up and ready for you with the brand new sweeper January 1st, but please give me till February 1st. But it's all ordered, it's coming, and I know you're going to be very happy about it.
Awesome.
The next slide, I want to give you a little update on the landfill remaining permitted capacity. I believe Denise and Ben were both working with Enviro Strategies on submitting the appropriate paperwork to LA County and Cal Recycle. The current landfill, as it's permitted today, has somewhere between 10 and 13 years left. And we anticipate that it'll be more than 13 years based upon the increased bale density that we're now doing with the bales. The possibility of an increased height on the landfill, which is an option, and also some additional diversion programs, which we're going to speak to a little bit tonight. Maria will talk about the legislation.
Good evening. I wanted to briefly go over some important legislation impacting your city as well as many others, or all others in the state. First, AB 341 requires businesses and multifamily complexes to arrange for recycling, and that was July 1st, 2012. But an important component to that was that it established a statewide diversion goal of 75% by 2020. AB 1826, that requires commercial businesses to arrange for organics recycling, and there's various tiers to that legislation. The first being someone who generates 8 cubic yards or more of organics by April 1st, 2016. And then it goes down to 4 cubic yards the following year, all the way down to 2 yards of municipal solid waste if the state is not reached their goal by the year 2020. Multifamily properties are required only to divert green waste or to have a green waste diversion program available to them, not food waste. The jurisdictions are required to have an organics program in place by January 1st, 2016, or at least a program that they're considering implementing. Jurisdictions have similar outreach and education and monitoring requirements as in AB 341, which was implemented a few years ago. Green waste, untreated wood waste, pre- and post-consumer food scraps, they're all considered organics under this law. AB 1594, green waste material used as alternative daily cover, or ADC as it's commonly referred to, no longer will constitute diversion through recycling, and it'll be considered disposal, meaning that it essentially will be banned from the landfill by 2020. The good news for the city of Avalon, Steve Batty is going to basically give you an overview of where you're at in terms of compliance with that legislation.
Good evening. We here in Avalon, we are ahead of the curve. We have had for a number of years mandatory food sequester in the restaurants. The restaurants are also doing waste vegetable oil source separation, and very soon they'll be installing grease collectors. All of that is being recycled. And we have the vegetative green waste is an item that we are taking to the landfill. You're separating it, and we're taking it to the landfill and combining it with the food waste to make compost or mulch. And we now have updated printed materials, which we'll be mailing within the week to all the residents so that they can know more about what we're doing in this area.
Okay, before I forget it, I'm going to go into the slide, but I forgot to tell you on those rain gutters, we're going to collect all the water that comes off of that roof in these large totes like you have all around the city. And that hasn't been a problem with the contractors, but I think it's pretty innovative. We'll use all that water in our composting yard up above at the landfill, so we won't have to use any domestic water.
Great idea.
This slide is fairly new. It's going to be new to you. I'd like you to take a look at it when you have some spare time. You don't have to study it tonight. But on the left-hand side of this slide, it tells you what we're currently doing on the residential side. We have basically 2-time collection per week of the waste cart and the recycling carts. That's the way the contract was written. We believe it's time to reconsider that and take a look at a couple options. And I'll go over 3 options that I want to present to you tonight. The first option on the upper right is 1 time a week collection of waste. The second one would be 1 time a week collection of recycling cart. In other words, instead of twice, it'd be 1 for each. Option 2 is 1 time a week collection of the waste cart with compostable organic bags provided to the customers, so organics can go into a compostable bag in the waste cart. And then the third item would be 1 time a week collection of recycling. The third option I'd like you to think about is going to 1 time a week collection of the waste cart and 1 time a week collection of an organics cart. In other words, those residents now that have green waste carts will convert that to an organic cart. And those who do not have green waste carts will provide them with an organic cart, so they can not only put green waste, but they can put their oils, their food scraps, and so forth all in 1 cart. And where I'm going with this, and some of you remember back in, help me Denise, I think it was almost a year ago, we had presented the city with an idea of going to an anaerobic digester plant, where the anaerobic digester, or the AD plant, would take all organics and create fuel and electricity. The one thing about we're building probably the largest AD plant in the western states right now in Paris, California. It'll take about 335,000 tons of organics a year and convert that into compressed natural gas and fertilizer. A smaller type AD plant would be very beneficial to the city of Avalon. And the one thing that I found out actually yesterday morning from Mr. Silva, I was telling Denise about it earlier, is that there are some Cal Recycle grants available for smaller communities. In fact, there were 3 $1 million grants last year that were not even applied for. And if the city wanted to pursue that AD project in the future, Ole, I think you probably remember that probably as well as Mr. Hernandez, you would probably have a very good chance of getting at least one of those $1 million grants, because this is a project that would be very not only beneficial to the city, but it would also, we also provided an option to change that saltwater piping in your city to recycled water, and this would go a long way in producing the power for that to replace salt water with recycled water. Also, would take all your sewer sludge. Once we get that out of the saltwater system, put it on a recycled water system, all that sewer sludge would go into the AD plant. You would not have any more waste on the sewer side. So anyway, something to think about. The last slide is Steve wants to talk a little bit about bin cleaning.
I do. We have had some challenge with regard to the commercial trash bins. They're shared. People, different businesses, restaurants use them. And our contract presently provides for us to exchange them one time per year. I don't think that's frequent enough, and so we are going to be following up with Ben and Denise with a proposal to increase the frequency of the exchange, to exchange a clean bin for what is in use. And the important thing is that we can bring them up to the landfill, to the MRF facility where we can clean them. We have the right equipment, and whatever residuals there are drain down to the sewage treatment plant. So I think it would be a big improvement over the folks in town having to deal with it. And thank you very much.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor and Council. It's been a pleasure being here tonight. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them for it. Otherwise, study our material and we'll be happy to come back.
I think I have a couple quick ones. Grease collection from restaurants now, is that considered green waste?
It's, well, there's a lot of words for grease. We call it fog, fat oil and grease in a lot of places. But that is not considered green waste, no. It is considered organics. And I'm not sure if the current contract defines organics or not, but most of our new contracts are putting that organics definition in, and it includes grease and fog as a part of the definition, yes.
And what happens to that when it's collected?
There are a couple of grease collection devices that have been presented by vendors, and depending on the device that's selected by the restaurant owner, in at least one case, we think that the food particles and the grease can just be added into the green bags for the food sequester. In other instances, the trap will have to be cleaned. And when that happens, we're going to provide one of the totes that you see around town, the water totes, that size tote for the grease to accumulate. And then the same pumper truck that comes about once every 2 or 3 months to clean out the trap at Blue Water and at Steve's, and very seldom at the yacht club. That truck will pump out that tote, and it's a commodity. It goes over town, and I don't know exactly what it's used for, but it's a commodity and it's used in some way. I think it might be used for chicken feed, to tell you the truth, but I'm not sure about that.
And then I'm not familiar with orange recycle bags. I know we have the blue ones for paper. What are the orange bags?
Well, the blue ones are for all your recyclables, and they were turning up all over town for lots of uses apart from recycling. And the idea, I think, of the orange bags is simply to maybe make it more it gives us one more opportunity to discuss with people the fact that these are for source separation recycling, make it perhaps obvious when someone's not using them correctly. And I think, Denise, maybe this is premature, I think the city may even be considering asking for a donation of $1 per roll. It's just another way of getting people to realize that these are really for recycling and not for other things.
Right, we get a lot of folks that just come in, just assume that it's a free trash bag handout system, and
But we currently have orange recycle bags?
No, no,
That's
they're
my
coming.
confusion.
They're on order.
Oh, okay.
They haven't been distributed.
Okay,
They haven't been distributed yet.
got it. Thank you.
And if I could just make one comment, Mr. Batty mentioned the commercial bin cleaning, and I know they didn't want to say the word, but I'm going to say the word. I mean, we believe this will address some of the issues with the flies we've been experiencing in town, and so we're anxious to get a quote from CR&R. We're going to take it very seriously, bring it to you for your consideration. We think that an ongoing cleaning of the bin process will alleviate a lot of that issue that we're having in town.
And that was not in the current contract?
It's not in the current
Okay.
contract, but we feel it's very important as a public health matter. We think that, our visitors and our residents are being overwhelmed by it, so we want to address that.
So they'll be coming back to us with some kind of a price
Yeah,
on that?
absolutely, and we're going to bring that to you for your consideration.
Okay, how long is that gonna take? Because it's gonna start raining, the flies are gonna go away anyway, so would that be pretty soon, maybe?
Steve, haven't you already started
But the
to,
flies will also be back, they'll be back next week.
Steve, haven't you already started to exchange some of them or to clean them out?
Yes, we absolutely are changing.
Okay.
We're doing our one time per year exchange, and we started that probably a month ago, and now it's accelerating it. But I thought your question was, when can we come back to Ben and Denise with the proposal? That's in process.
Yeah, okay.
Soon.
Yeah, I noticed the fly problem was getting a little bit better, but they're still around, so it's still kind of
Yes.
a problem. It's a nuisance and probably a health hazard too, so I really appreciate you guys, what you've done so far. I really appreciate you getting on that so quickly, and I appreciate any other moves you can make to mitigate those flies, because it's a pretty nasty thing.
Thank you very much, Councilman. I want to say, and I'm
Thank
sure
you.
everyone in the community appreciates the fact that the men work very well on us. And this is something that they've really put a lot of time and effort into just over the last 3 years.
You guys do work real hard, and you do a great job, and I thank you and your crew very much. Pleasure.
Is there are still some trash cans that aren't the really nice ones with the lids. Is there any enforcement or anything that can be done to have people change those out? Because it's still a problem. I mean, I know in my little alley, on Descanso, there's still a lot of the old round ones, and the lids are off, and the birds are there, and
Is the problem the trash cans or the people that own the trash cans?
well, as it was with the
Yeah.
other ones. So for some reason, they haven't gotten the other ones or haven't asked, and I
Oh,
don't
the
know.
replacement bins for residential aren't at these homes, is that the issue?
Exactly.
Okay, well, I think if we know the address, we can address that matter. So if you give Denise the address, we can take care of
But
that.
some
I don't
people
know
have
why
opted
they-
out.
What's that?
What's that?
Some people have opted out of the new bins.
Yeah, you don't have to
You don't
take
have
those
to take the
bins,
new bins.
and I don't think you should have to.
I had bids on them and they
But you're
don't.
good, but some people aren't.
But we could have the opportunity, if we knew the address, to at least send a letter and see if they were potentially interested.
Well, also, wouldn't they be eligible for a visit from code enforcement if their trash
If
is
it's a
not properly
nuisance,
contained?
absolutely.
Right,
Yes.
right. And then your poor gentlemen are having to go down the alley picking up trash along with it, litter and garbage, so it's a shame, it just adds to their day.
Our carts are available free, just call us.
I know.
240, and we will bring them to your home.
Yeah, but I'll bring the addresses to your attention, because maybe they were out of town.
It's the ravens and seagulls and the cats and dogs too.
And then on those.
Thanks, Steve.
Yes, and on those assembly bills, the enforcement for those things, like multifamily, is that what the city of Avalon is supposed to be enforcing? Because it says by such and such year, multifamily people shall, how do you?
We just had a visit from CalRecycle, and Denise was also present, and they've already sent their letter. You guys are fabulous. You're ahead of the curve. You've got the sequester program for your commercial restaurants. Your multifamily everything's being MRF'd or processed and diverted. You've got an aggressive C&D program. You guys are doing a fabulous job, and that's what, why Steve was up to just basically indicate that, the last leg of that is organics at the curb,
Okay.
which is what Dean had mentioned to you in the green waste card. That's
Okay.
really, really the last arm of all of the legislation that they've come up with for the goal of attaining 75% statewide.
But that's our responsibility. The city of Avalon's responsibility.
Well, it's the city's, but Avalon Environmental Services is
Yes.
signed on for that job, and that's what we're here to do.
Okay. And the other items that you brought up, the other options, is that something you want us to consider in the short term?
Yeah, I'd like you to start thinking about it, and maybe we can come back in a
I
month or
suggest
so.
when we come back with the contract amendment, we'll give you those options before
Okay.
that even.
The organics cart at the curb is becoming very popular. We've signed on a number of cities, for example, Costa Mesa, San Clemente, Stanton, Aliso Viejo, Temecula, Paris, I can go on and on. Cities are signing up for our anaerobic digestion plant big time right now because we've got about close to $10 million in grants on a $50 million project. So those savings are being passed on to our customers over on the mainland. Collecting organics here will put you that far ahead of 2020, and it'll also put you that far ahead of saving the life, extending the life of your landfill. So I think the sooner we make a decision on what to do, it's better for the landfill, it's better for the environment, and better for Avalon.
And just one other, a couple of questions. If you reduce the collection to 1 day a week, does that mean people get twice as many cans? Because some people still have a lot of garbage.
We'll take a look at that. I'm not sure how the contract reads right now. Hold on. I show that as one option. We would still have twice a week collection, but what it would be one waste and one recycling. So
Right.
they'd still get the twice a week. In those situations, it really encourages people to get things into that recycling cart because they don't have enough room in the black cart. And it's worked in some other communities. In the near future, most of our 3-cart programs that we have over in the mainland are going to be 2-cart programs. Because once materials become compostable, your paper plates, your forks, plastic glasses, all your water bottles, there's going to be very, very, very little left in the black container. You're going to have more and more. So that's why in some new contracts now, we're giving them a small cart for the black cart for the trash and a larger cart for recyclables. Because most everything is going to be recyclable within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Manufacturers are changing very rapidly.
Okay. All righty. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
And
much.
it was nice having the variety in the presentation.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, we had another presentation.
Yes, Mayor, last one is from Southern California Edison on Phase 2 water rationing. I know that Jeff and Ron are both here.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council and staff. My name is Jeff Lawrence, Senior Project Manager for Southern California Edison. Here to give you an update on our Stage 2 water rationing plan, as well as our additional desalination project, and also our planned advice filing with the CPUC coming up in the next week or so. So this slide is showing you our current water level at Middle Ranch Reservoir. We've been able to minimize the drawdown of the reservoir through our rationing plan this year. We currently sit at 215 acre feet. This slide here is showing you the water use for September last month compared to September during our baseline period. So that would be 2 years ago. We've been able to reduce water use by just under 30%, while visitor counts increased by over 24%. And that resulted in a water savings of just over 10 acre feet. This next slide is looking at the last 12 months. So we've actually been in water rationing now for 14 months. So looking at the last 12 months compared to our baseline period, we've been able to reduce water use by over 40%. Very significant water reductions. That while visitor counts have gone up by almost 27%. This has resulted in a savings of about 155 acre feet, about equivalent to a 6-month supply of water. If you extrapolate those 14 months over the baseline period, so you count August and September twice, we've actually been able to reduce water use by 183 acre feet. This next slide is our violations for water use, essentially for discretionary uses for water. We have a code enforcement officer that is on patrols, and we have now reached 128 violations since the beginning of Stage 2 water rationing. That is 7 new violations since the last time we met with you. This slide here is showing you the billing periods that closed during the last month, and of those billing periods that closed, how many of them resulted in a second violation or a flow restrictor violation. So you can see in recent months we have seen a significant spike, up from about 1% to 2% on a monthly basis to 6% we're seeing in the last few months. So we've had 123 flow restrictor violations during the month of September. And it's expected as we get further and further into rationing that we'd see more people getting that second violation. That breaks down to a total of 390 flow restrictor violations since we've implemented Stage 2. 314 of them are residential and 76 of them are commercial accounts. For our Stage 3 forecast, based on the results of Stage 2 water rationing, our forecast only includes the reduction in water use of 25%. We used to have 2 methods before. We're very confident in the results of water rationing. And our forecast has been pushed out from November to December based on the results of Stage 2. So here's a couple pictures of the project we're working on, the additional desal project. On the left are brand new calcite treaters that have been installed in the housing of the existing desal plant, and they're specifically for the new desalination unit. The RO unit is actually the picture on the right there, and those are the reverse osmosis membranes that you see in those pictures. So we actually reached a significant milestone on the additional desal project today. We started commissioning. We've completed all our major mechanical, electrical, and civil work, and now are turning our focus on commissioning and permitting. We expect to have the unit online and a letter to operate from DDW by mid-November, November 16th. As of October 19th, we completed all the mechanical and electrical work. And then commissioning will be complete on November 13th. That's a Friday, and then we anticipate getting the letter operated shortly after that on November 16th. We want to make the community aware that during the pilot testing, we have multiple ways that we can run the new desalination unit. We can run the brine discharge from the existing unit through the new RO unit and actually cycle that water through twice through the reverse osmosis process. Or we can send seawater directly through the new unit. Or we can do a combination, a blended water, where we might send some brine discharge and some seawater through the unit. It gives our plant foreman operational flexibility depending on maybe some RO units come offline for maintenance or maybe demand is down. We'll have that flexibility. We have to run pilot tests for each one of those 3 scenarios. And in order to do that, we'll have to run seawater directly through the new unit, which will result in taking the existing plant offline for a period of time. So we'll keep that to a minimum, but it's just absolutely necessary to get this new unit online. And that'll occur for periods of time over the next few weeks. As we're wrapping up commissioning and permitting, we do have a dedication ceremony planned for Monday, November 30th. We're excited to celebrate this project with the community and also acknowledge many of the key contributors, which we want to acknowledge the City of Avalon for providing the financial contribution to this project. And we'll be happy to celebrate with you on November 30th. So in the last couple of meetings, I've been updating the council and the public on an advice filing with the commission. And there's really 3 parts of this filing that we want to highlight. Additional details will be available online, but just a summary here. When the reservoir level drops to that 200 acre-foot level, we are going to delay implementing Stage 3 water rationing. That's the request of this advice letter. We'll need to reassess that after the rainy season this year and need to look at that once we reach our peak demand season next summer. But between now and then, we do not anticipate a need, we do not see a need to implement stage 3 water rationing. And the Commission is aware of this request that's coming and has not objected to this request. There are also some water prohibitions or restrictions that have been in the governor's drought emergency order that have not been in our tariffs. We had applied for an extension to get those implemented, and now we're taking the opportunity to become compliant with those restrictions. The first restriction prohibits watering outdoor landscaping during a rain event or immediately after that rain event for 2 days. So if customers have a sprinkler system that's on an automated timer, it will mean that you'll have to either put in a moisture sensor, or you have to actually go and turn off your watering system during the rain event and for 2 days after. I think everyone gets frustrated when you're walking through a rainstorm and you see the sprinklers on. So the state of California has said you can no longer do that. The next one is for businesses, business establishments providing overnight accommodations, hotels, motels, bed and breakfasts. They shall provide guests the option of not having their linens or towels laundered. So it's not a requirement of our guests, but each hotel operator should have a sign in their room posted that they can just hang their towels back up and elect not to have them laundered. And then the third one prohibits watering ornamental turf in public street medians. And again, this is consistent with the governor's drought order. There are some additional changes that are very general in nature and don't have any impact. They're to reduce redundancy, make it a little easier to read, and were made for consistency improvement of the tariffs. And then there are a few changes as well to our fining structure. So for that chart that I showed you before, for someone who was watering when it was outside the approved time, currently they'd get a $25 violation for that, and then it would go up in $25 increments for that violation, which is very low in comparison to other water agencies in the state of California. The governor's drought order authorizes water agencies to actually charge a fee of up to $500 for water violations like that. So we're implementing an increase to those fines. However, we're not going to as severe of a fine as what's in the governor's order. For the first water use violation, it'll result in a $50 fine, and then increase by $100, not to exceed $500. And then for customers that exceed their monthly water allotments, but they have a meter that's a dual purpose meter for either their residential or domestic, residential or commercial service, but they also have a fire suppression system on that same meter. We do not install flow restrictors on those water meters for public health and safety. So this introduces a fine to those customers. The first fine will be $250, with each additional fine for the same offense to increase by $100, not to exceed $500. And then the last change is that there's basically an informal appeal process for customers that either disagree with their monthly water allotment violation or a decision that was made on a variance request from their water allotment. They first file an appeal with Edison, and if they didn't like that decision, they could go to the CPUC for an informal complaint, and if they didn't like the outcome of that, then they could file a formal complaint. The CPUC has directed us to eliminate the informal complaint process. So if you aren't satisfied with the appeal process through Edison, then you would go through a formal complaint with the commission.
Same people, right?
This is currently in draft, simply because we haven't filed the letter yet. We will be filing the letter on Friday. We're calling it draft, but we do not anticipate any changes to what I presented to you today. And then once the letter's been filed, you'll be able to see the developments of that filing at www.sce.com/advice letters. There is a 21-day comment period with the commission, and then we'd expect a decision a minimum of 30 days after the filing, and hopefully not to exceed very far beyond the 30 days. So with that, I'll turn it over for questions.
Council? Does the community have any questions?
Mayor, I just had a comment. The city attorney and I will be with Supervisor Kanavi, his team on Thursday regarding the desal plant and a potential county participation in that project. So any involvement of the county will likely mean an amendment to our MOU that we have with Edison for that project, and so we would bring that back to you for review and consideration. And I'll have more for you following our meeting on
Great.
Thursday.
Could be some good news. That's awesome.
Okay, now I got a question. If we get the amount of rain, or if we get a lot of rain this year, what do we do with these desalination units? I mean, do we still keep them online just to keep them running and keep them tuned up? I mean, because you use it or you lose it in most cases, and we know that from the past when we didn't use the desalination unit and it basically just froze up. So, will we keep running them?
Yeah, it's going to be used as supplemental water once the reservoir is full, and it'll be utilized to minimize the drawdown. So there's a balancing act there, right?
Yeah, right.
You want to avoid rate shock from running the desal plant all the time, but you also want to preserve our groundwater resources. So that'll be how the plant operates, the desal units.
Yeah.
The agreement specifically requires that they keep the desal plant open to make certain that the reservoir keeps a high level as possible. So that is a contractual requirement.
All right, that sounds good to me. That's what I was hoping the answer would be. Thank you.
And is all of this information, not just this last one, but all the information on your website? This update that you give us?
Yeah, I believe this gets posted on the City of Avalon website as well.
Oh, put it
George-
on
George
ours
has
as
it.
well.
It goes on
Okay.
our website,
I
yeah.
thought so. Okay, thank you. Great.
Jeff, just a question. Is there any plan to maybe store some water from the desal when this rain does finally come with Edison sometime or another with the desal, get the desal going? We have portable tanks, even though we have plenty of water in the reservoir. Is there any proposal down the line to maybe purchase some storage tanks, portable storage tanks or whatever to preserve water also?
Yeah, we can utilize the Baker tanks that we have for storage. We are looking at a portfolio of projects that would likely become a part of a grant funding application. And so tank storage is one of those projects that we would be considering, depending on what the funding opportunity is, what type of projects they'll accept.
So we have a capability to pump them to the Baker tanks, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's great.
I didn't know that. I just
I'm
thought
glad
it was
you guys
in the city.
are thinking in that direction. I hope you get that funding, and because I've had a lot of people ask me about storage, and also I've inquired it in my own mind that we could use a couple million-gallon storage tanks. I mean, in a perfect world, of course, but if we can at least think in that direction, I think it'd help us out also in people's hearts and minds.
Absolutely.
And the Baker reservoirs hold how much?
Which
The storage
reservoir?
tanks, the tanks?
The Baker tanks, they're 3 125,000-gallon tanks.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, city manager report.
I have no report, thank you.
City attorney,
No report tonight.
council members.
Me?
Sure, if you have.
Okay, I got a couple announcements. Basically, I told the public that I would get back to you on what was going on out at Escondido with the asbestos contamination problem. I've been speaking to Garrett Kashida, Ed Pupka, and Sheriff Snyder, Executive Deputy Sheriff of the Southern California Air Quality Management District. And so far, that site is closed down, and it's going to stay closed down until the island company submits Dusk or Rusak Vineyards, I should say, or whatever they call the other name that they call themselves. But basically, it's Rusak Vineyards until they come up with a dust mitigation plan. And Sheriff Snyder, I just spoke with her right before our meeting tonight, and she promised me that before this dust mitigation plan gets approved, they're going to go through it. Matter of fact, they've already rejected one plan, and they're going through another one that has been submitted to them. And they're going to end up coming over here and inspect that site out there to make sure that it's safe and it's not going to contaminate any of our water wells or it's not going to pose a danger to the public, campers, bikers, hikers, tour people, so on and so forth. So I'm on that, and I just want to let people know that you're safe, but the place is going to stay closed out there until this dust mitigation plan is approved. The next item I was going to just ask or bring to your attention is this dirt that's going on up by the golf course here that was put there from the museum. There's a crew out here that the Island Company actually hired to come out and to do compaction and geotechnical survey work, which basically means that the dirt is going to be stable. I still am having a real hard time having that much soil above the city of Avalon. Why it was put there, I still don't understand it. That being a FEMA-recognized floodplain, it doesn't make sense to me. I know they're going through all the steps to make that dirt compacted up there, and our building inspector and Dennis J.H. are working with those people to make sure that they're doing the job correctly. But what I'm understanding is that there is a potential to be 37 inches of rain this year. That's what I've heard today that was projected, possibly. Okay, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, and I'm not going to bet on it. But I certainly do think that we need to prepare for it if that happens. So I still think that somebody needs to have a liability. So we need to have some liability insurance on that, because I don't feel that great about having that much dirt upstream from everybody's bread and butter. Homes, businesses, so on and so forth. Safety, health, all this stuff. So I'm actually going to continue to work with Chris Wilhelm and Dennis J. Edge and Brian and Scott Campbell to make sure that they do everything that is necessary, and then maybe we can get an extra insurance policy on top of that just because so much rain is projected. That was a big concern of mine. Also, I just wanted to go over and thank CR&R for starting to spray our dumpsters out there, because I know there's been a fly problem. Everybody has come up to me and asked me about it. I just wanted to let you know that Ben Harvey's been working with them to mitigate that fly problem and that concern, because those little pests, if nothing else, they're just pesty. So it's not a good thing. I don't like all those flies around. So we're doing something about that as well. And there's a few other things that I didn't write down, and they've kind of escaped my mind, but I'll let some of the other council people talk.
I have had a couple conversations this week along with city staff. A member of our community had brought the idea about cigarette butt trash receptacles. There is a visiting member to our harbor for many years now that is interested in donating some cigarette butt trash receptacles. The Chamber of Commerce in its recent board meeting has also discussed another option that I'm sorry I didn't have enough time before this meeting to research that further, but I'm very excited about this potential grant, if you will, from a member of our visiting community. So we'll bring back more information on that, and also thanks to city staff for kind of walking and talking through that a little bit. I attended the Gateway Cities Council of Government meeting on the 7th, and there was an update on the active transportation strategic plan, which I'll pass along to staff. Update from California Air Resources Board. The U.S. Department of Transportation's Beyond Traffic 2045 presentation was interesting. Eco Rapid Transit Transportation Summit is a possibility that I'll pass along to staff if they feel that would be good for the city to attend. And Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grants information was also put out and for the 2016-17 year, and I'll pass all that along to staff. And lastly, I would like to personally thank Supervisor Don Kanabe for a recommendation of myself to serve on the Los Angeles County Workforce Development Board, as well as the County Board of Supervisors for ratifying the appointment on October 6th. Thank you for including Avalon as part of the board and for trust and support in my participation. And also for the Avalon community, I'm very excited about this opportunity to serve. The Los Angeles County Workforce Development Board is one of 48 local workforce development boards in the state of California, certified by the governor of the state. We will operate with and on behalf of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors to carry out functions mandated by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014. Our next council meeting, I believe November 3rd, we will hear a formal presentation explaining more about this appointment and what the board goals will be. So in the interim, I will be attending an orientation meeting next Wednesday, October 28th, and I look forward to a presentation on November 3rd to talk a little bit more about it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You good? Mayor Pro Tem?
I did a webinar with the new State of California redevelopment law that was put on by the California League of Cities, and it was fairly informative, and we might be able to use that tool in the future, which would be good because the old redevelopment agencies spend a lot of money on capital, and we're short of capital.
Was it? Okay. And I went to the mayor's meeting last week in Santa Clarita, which was amazing. They have a recreational facility the size of Avalon. It was pretty intense. I've never been to Santa Clarita. And anyway, they discussed homelessness, and there's an annual homelessness count in January, and I believe, I need to get the information if you hadn't gotten it also. They look for volunteers to count homeless, and LA County has over 49,000 homeless people. So, and their dilemma about what to do with them is really intense. But they also, on good news though, they talked about the Olympics perhaps coming to Los Angeles in 2024, Summer Olympics. So moving forward, if there's anything we can do to support that, because I think it was, last time it was there, I think it was beneficial to the city of Avalon. Had a lot of day trippers. I guess we had to do that security stuff, JJ, didn't we? That's when they hired Norbert Reyes to stand it on the mall and when he was 12 and 14 and make sure that there was no terrorist attacks. But anyway, so that was awesome. And I also would like to a shout out to Art Good and Jazz Tracks. He had 2 very successful weekends, which brought lots of money to the community of Avalon. And I also want to thank the volunteers that helped Usher to raise money for Catalina Kid Ventures. He gives us a little donation, but CKV. But very good event. So thank you, Art. And well, I think next year is his 30th year, so maybe we can do something a little special. Okay, oral communications. This is an opportunity for the community to speak on an item which is not on the agenda. Please limit your comments to about 3 minutes, and no action will be taken.
Hi, I'm Judy Hibbs from Catalina Island Medical Center. Thank you for this opportunity, Mayor and City Council, for telling you about the Disaster Prepare-a-thon that we have coming up in November. I've provided for the council a copy of this complimentary emergency survival guide from Los Angeles County, and I have additional copies for the audience if anyone didn't receive one. Starting this Thursday, October 22nd at Fall Fest, we will be selling discount survival kits. It is a backpack for even suitable for quick evacuation from your home. That is a 3-day supply for a family of 4. They are going to be offered for $40, which is over 50% off the retail value. We're asking for a $20 cash deposit at the time you pre-order, and then the packs will be available to you. We're also offering free training and classes and an important community event right here in the council chambers on Thursday, November 5th, where fire, sheriff, CERT, the medical center, and other stakeholders in the community will talk about how to prepare, how to survive, how to recover, and have the residents would have their questions answered. We're offering CPR certification, which would be free to participants on Friday, November 6th from 9 to 1. First aid classes on that same day in the afternoon from 1 to 5. Both of those will be at the Glenmore Plaza Hotel. We have the Red Cross Shelter in Place class, which is a very unique opportunity, and we're encouraging employers to consider, and also public entities to consider, sending a representative to this special seminar. It's an all-day seminar. It's going to be available on Thursday the 5th and Friday the 6th of November. It is free. but it's very comprehensive, and if there should be a serious biological or airborne incident, we would have an opportunity to shelter in place in a business, in a school, even in a vehicle, where you may have to provide safety for your employees, for your family, for even visitors who are in your business or in the place where you happen to be, for up to 96 hours until help were to arrive or until the situation would dissipate. So this is something that's never been offered here. We're very grateful to Southern California Edison. We applied for and received a grant. We also have community partners with the Avalon Lions Club, the Catalina Island Medical Center Foundation, the Rotary Club, and the Catalina Island Women's Forum to make the survival kits affordable for residents. It's a $95 value that they would be available for $40. So people can sign up at the hospital, they can call the hospital, they can, there'll be telephone numbers in the newspaper and also flyers posted at various places. I've given a flyer to each of you council members, so I would encourage you to take that to your businesses. If anyone has questions, they can let us know. Janet Siebert, who is our Director of Emergency Preparedness at Catalina Island Medical Center, is away at a training this week with Kathy Dollarhide, who from St. Mary's Medical, who is our Regional Director for the Disaster Resource Center. And they are both actively involved in this program, as well as our local fire and other first responders who will be participating. So we're very excited. We are looking forward to a lot of information being distributed and free trainings. We're also going to be doing another sidewalk CPR. We had the mayor come down and learn in just 5 to 10 minutes. We can show anyone the basics of the hands-only technique, and you could very well save the life of someone or keep them alive long enough for the emergency responders to reach the scene. So we thank you for this opportunity to share this information, and we look forward to having everyone come out and support this first ever event. It's a disaster preparathon presented by Catalina Island Medical Center.
Congratulations and thank you. That's a lot of work. Definitely. And thank you, Edison, for your contribution as well, and the other civic groups.
You're such a Annie, huh?
Good job. Okay. Are there other communications?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jim Luchahan from the Catalina Island Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau, and I wanted to bring your and the viewing audience's attention to a wonderful event that's taken place that puts the national spotlight on our community. USA Today and 10best.com hold contests throughout the year, and recently a panel of 20 national experts nominated what they believed to be the top 20, a panel of experts nominated what they believed to be the top 20 ghost tours in the United States and included ghost tours of Catalina in that top 20. And then a public online contest was held for a few weeks where I'm happy to say that the ghost tours of Catalina placed in the top 10. And so we would like to publicly congratulate our local business for that win and encourage all residents of the community and all visitors to the community to help promote further this national attention that's been brought on our community and at a timely year right before Halloween.
Great, thank you.
Good evening. I just wanted to remind the community that this Thursday from 5 to 9 on Front Street is our annual Fall Fest. This is a great opportunity to support your local organizations. Many of our nonprofits in town will be serving up some amazing food, having lots of games, pumpkin patch, hayride, great music on Wrigley Stage. So it's just a family-friendly event for the whole evening down there. We hope to see the whole town. So come on out for that. I think that's it for me tonight. Yeah.
How much does it cost?
It's free to come down. It's free to dance. It's free to walk around, and then bring a lot of money with you so you can give it to our local organizations. Yeah.
It's fun.
Thank you.
I love the Fall Fest.
Jordan Monroe, Community Outreach Director, KISL 88.7 Island Radio. Just wanted to let everybody know that we have a new podcast launched, Catalina Film Radio, where we highlight interviews with directors and filmmakers as part of the Catalina Film Society monthly screenings that they're holding tomorrow night at Overlook Hall, where they're showing Wanda the Wonderful, a documentary which is pretty intriguing. So you can check it out at Overlook Hall tomorrow night at 7, and check out the podcast. And then I think Overlook Hall is looking to do screenings of other films filmed on Catalina Island moving forward. I think they're talking about doing Meeting on the Valley on Friday. So we'll see if we have something with that.
Great, thank you. And Rhonda Kanish is here. We
I'm really sorry. I just really like to apologize for not being here, but I was in an early intervention. I just could not be.
totally understand. Yes.
Thank you so much.
We read it, and we want to thank you for all the efforts you do. And Councilman Sampson had a question. Are there any Red Ribbon activities that the community or the kids, what's kind of happening?
Actually, we'll be, I'll come down here. But starting on Monday, we have an array of Red Ribbon activities. We will kick off Monday morning with McGruff the Crime Dog coming in. And throughout the whole week, we'll have different activities on campus. We have some guest speakers coming this year again, and they will be in the classrooms, 2 assemblies. And we also have an inspirational speaker that will be coming, Preston Pollard. And so he will be speaking with the elementary students. And we have, let's see, what else do we have? We also have a community awareness night on Tuesday night, right here, 7 to 8:30. And we hope that all of the parents come out. It's really important that we find out and learn ideas on how to keep our kids safe. So I would really encourage the parents, if you think your young person is too, your child's too young, you just need to know information. So I'd really encourage the community to come out on Tuesday night from 7 to 8:30 for this informative education that we'll have for you guys. And our guest speakers will also be there overtaken. There's 2 young people there. One, Peyton will be here this time. She is a young person who, she's 21, she's never used drugs, but her parents used drugs. And so she was at the bedside of her mother when she died from drugs, and she will be here sharing her story. And we also have another young man sharing with us that he is a recovered addict and is in the process right now of becoming a family marriage counselor, and he's 25. So it's going to be a very positive week. We have a lot of fun games on campus. The campus will be decked out, and we have different venues, drug fact wheels going on during the nutrition time, where there'll be prizes, and like I said, there'll be a lot of, we have a special meeting with the peer mediators, with the speakers also. So there's a lot of activities going on campus for sure.
Great. Thank you.
And once again, I really apologize for this. I appreciate you guys. So I just appreciate you guys.
You need the mayor up there.
Giving us this proclamation supporting Red Ribbon.
Hey, Rhonda, where can people get red ribbons from you? I mean,
Yes.
their
Yes,
bands?
I actually do have some.
I mean, they give you a donation, right? Or do you just give them away?
We actually bought them for all of the students this year, K through 12. They'll be giving them out at school. And we have pledges that will be signed on campus for the young people. But if anybody would like to have
Okay.
a bracelet, we'd love to give you one.
Okay,
We have some here right
just if you didn't hear that, if anybody would like a bracelet, they can get them from Rhonda. And you do take donations for those, correct?
Sure.
Okay. Yes. So everybody grab a red ribbon from Rhonda, a red bracelet from her.
So if I can, I'll just set these here for you guys.
I'd love to have one.
Our theme this year is respect yourself, be drug-free. So thank you so much.
The theme this year is respect yourself, be drug-free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Any?
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Ronald Garcia. I work for Southern California Edison Company, Region Manager, Public Affairs. And I wanted to take a moment to thank the Catalina Island medical staff and their team for putting together this emergency preparedness marathon. What a valuable effort that's going to be for this community and all communities. We talk about every year be prepared, and we're not. You look over town, the floods that came down, bringing hill slides and cars and vehicles. I wonder how many of those people have water or any substance in their or were able to communicate. So we know we have to be prepared for the unexpected. We take a look, microbursts, clouds, streets flooded in communities, and we go, wow, hope that doesn't happen to us because I'm not prepared. So let me share with you what Edison Company is doing. We have an ongoing inspection and maintenance program. Ronald Hyde and his team are going through our facilities, water, gas, and electricity, making sure that if there's any issues, we can identify them, correct them, and fix them before they become a real problem to us. So we're preparing always for that major disaster. Want to remind our families that our number to reach us is 800-367-8851. And should it be an emergency, stay on the line, follow the prompts, and notify us that this is something that needs to be addressed right now. It cannot wait, because sometimes you're going to get the message, if this is a billing issue, wait till our operating hours. Lastly, I wanted to share that if you don't have those flashlights, battery operated, or radios, please get those. You'll be surprised at how they're going to come in handy when you're in the dark. Many people say I'm in the dark all the time, so I should be expert talking about this stuff. But nevertheless, one last suggestion, should you be caught without that stuff, Mother Nature has her way with us, takes down our power lines. If you have outdoor landscaping, solar lights, bring those inside during the night, recharge them during the day, and you can have light in your home. Thank you.
Yeah. Great, thank you very much. Okay, other oral communications?
Good evening, Janice Hall, 334 Clarissa. My question or issue seems to go to what you're going to go through in closed session tonight. So I understand that it can't be discussed, and I don't expect any answer, but I've just been noticing, like on the agenda and some of the figures that seem to show that, in my mind, there's a pattern of putting people on administrative leave, hiring consultants at expensive rates, and then having to go through a lot of legal fees. And it looks like on one of the issues, why you pay the person to stay home, you're also, it looks like about $100,000 in the total amount since August. And I'm just thinking, this has happened 2 or 3 times, and is $100,000 nothing in our city coffers? Or just seems like it could be better spent or better managed, or perhaps, starting work on a fuel dock or something on infrastructure orders. But I'm just a little bit concerned how a 20-year employee that has lived in the town and has a family and has worked 5 days and to my knowledge has not received much in the way of complaints, has been extremely personable, and she is now facing this moment, and to be replaced by a consulting firm that is from Long Beach and is here 3 days a week and is twice as expensive, I believe. So that's just something I'd like you to consider while you're in the behind closed doors, because as a taxpayer, this feels strange to me that, it can't be on the public, eye or spoken of. So, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Let's get to the consent calendar.
Okay, Mayor, there are 5 items on the consent calendar this evening. Actions from the October 6th meeting. Some expenditures for your consideration and approval, warrants in the amount of 2.7 million, EFT in the amount of 71,000, and payrolls in the amount of 413,000 approximately, for a total of 3.2 million approximately. A proposal of a temporary fuel trailer purchase for the casino dock, a professional services agreement for temporary planning assistance, and an amendment to an employment agreement for the chief administrative officer.
Okay, and council, what is your pleasure?
I believe we're waiting for more information on item number 3. Do we have that?
Was this related to?
Casino.
Installation costs, inspections, other fees?
I thought it was related to the double hull of that, so forgive me, I wrote down the wrong.
Should I pull that?
Well, you can pull it. I think that, JJ, do we know the answers to the installation expenses with this item, or do we need to come back with that?
Let me just pull the item. How's that? I'll pull it, and it'll give JJ a chance to be.
Okay.
I want to pull 4.
Okay, so we're pulling 3 and 4. Is there action on?
And then, I'm sorry, we had one more question on warrants.
Yes. So the audit committee had a question about, there are 3 expenditures related to fuel within the packet. It's 2 different warrant periods. 2 of the purchases are for the resale of fuel at the fuel dock. One of them is for the filling of fuel at the city yard. So it's those 2 different warrant periods and those 3 different areas. So that's what those expenditures are for.
I'll make a motion to approve items 1, 2, and 5.
Excellent.
Second.
Public comment? Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Item number 3.
If I could ask JJ to come to the podium, and forgive me, we may or may not have the information on this. I wrote down the wrong follow-up question, I'm sorry. But JJ may know this answer.
I believe Oli, was this your question by chance,
I have some
Mayor Pro
questions.
Tem?
How they were going to dispense the gas, that's been clarified. I didn't get clarification of what the installation was, but I didn't think it was going to be that bad. The installation of the facility on the casino point.
Okay. So are you asking about the trailer? Is that, I don't understand the question.
The cost of it, the installation.
Okay, I don't have the cost of the installation. As far as I'm to understand is that the trailer, I was given the task of getting a temporary fueling station for the boats during the fuel dock construction. We've got a temporary fueling station. It's what you all have got pictures of. It's a trailer that has a 2 500-gallon tanks in there, roughly $4.95. One for diesel, one for regular fuel. The pipe that's going to be going from at the top of the ramp where this trailer is going to be parked down along the pier of the rescue dock, down onto the dispenser, which we're taking the dispenser off the fuel dock, putting it on the rescue dock. That part, those pipes will have, I'm sorry?
No, I didn't say.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you had a question. Those pipes will have quick disconnects, ball closures on them, so when you disconnect them, there won't be any fuel leaking out. We'll have fuel trays underneath them, and also down on the float. If we have to pull the float for any storm-related issues, we'll have quick disconnects there, plus there'll be in a tray, a base that will be able to catch any fuel spillage at all. We also plan on putting in we have up at the warehouse a trailer that's for major spills, and it has 1,000-foot of boom in it. We plan on putting that out at the casino in case there is a catastrophe and we get a large spill. Again, keep in mind that these are 500 gallons each, and if you look at the picture, the 2 tanks are inside a trailer. And when we get the trailer, we're going to go ahead and pull those tanks out. We're going to put in a catch basin to be able to catch the 500 gallons. I've talked to Chief Krug, regarding the, any issues with county or city regulations regarding temporary fueling stations. And actually, there's not a whole lot. According to the Coastal Commission, we cannot leave that trailer there overnight. So every day, we're going to tow it up to the warehouse, park it. In the morning, we'll bring it down, put it in place. We are planning on building a containment unit, which the trailer will be backed into, and we'll be able to close behind it. And if anything does leak out of the trailer doing an everyday fueling, it'll be caught in a secondary containment unit. So we've pretty much planned as best we can for, you know, all contingencies. We don't foresee an issue. Obviously, you know, the best case scenarios, we get through this and without any issues. We do have containment plans and mitigation set up in response and be able to soak up any fuel that does come out. This particular trailer, we had, when I was given this task, Charlie, I went to Charlie Berschmidt. I says, what do we need to do this temporary deal? And this was the picture that he gave me. Actually, it was a different unit that we're going to build, so we could build it with the specifications that we have. But unfortunately, that unit was $30,000 and 6 to 8 weeks, which is not fitting into the fuel dock construction plan. We're behind an 8 ball here. Other discussions with Cal Fueling down in San Diego. How about a truck? The problem with the trucks is you got to run up, start them up every day, every time you want to pump fuel. It's not realistic. It's just not. So this is what we came up with. I could not find this unit anywhere on the West Coast. The only place I found it was a farming company in Kansas that had 2 of them in stock. So we talked to the powers to be, ran it by Dennis, ran it by Brian, and kind of felt this is our best option for what we need to get us through. When I was talking to Cal Fueling in San Diego, and I faxed him this picture, and because he was trying to come up with an idea for me, and he goes, "This is a sweet unit. You know, what are you going to do with it when you're done?" And I go, "I don't know. Maybe I'll call you up and see if you want to buy it." You know, so I think if we don't keep it, it's a great emergency fuel trailer. You can take it anywhere. If we don't keep it, I think we can turn around and sell it and recoup some of the money for it. So the other side of the picture was, how are we going to pay for it? This is a cost that wasn't in anybody's comprehension until we moved forward on this. And the thought being that we're going to probably add 5 cents to a gallon of gas for every gallon and recoup it over the 6 or 8 months or whatever to pay for the money it costs to buy it and the money it costs to transport it here. So that's, I mean, basically what we're looking at.
So we're going to park Rescue 2 some other place?
Yeah, we'll put Rescue 2 is going to be on mooring. Baywatch will be over back in the old days on Float 5 on offshores like it used to be, 20 years ago. And during the day, if there's cruise ships in and they can move off to a mooring and we can transport them to get to their boat as we need it. So those contingency plans have been developed, and Baywatch has been fully apprised and they're on board with it. So tentatively, that's what's going on.
This is for our use only? It's for so the shore boats and everything are going to be fueling up also?
Mm-hmm. Well, shore boats will be fueling up at the temporary fueling dock at the rescue dock.
Okay.
The semi-submersibles will be fueling up, I think, from the mole from a truck, and that's the game plan that they plan on doing for that. So,
is 500 seem enough? Is it?
Well, you know what? That was a good question that that I arose on and brought up also. But And like Brian says, you know, if we need to bring a truck in
to fuel it
twice a day, we'll do it, bring a truck in to fuel them twice a day. I unfortunately don't have the numbers of what, during the winter months, how many gallons of gas we fueled, you know, we sell. But even if it's, you know, if it gets down below half, we just call up the freight yard and
Come and
have them
get
deliver more gas. I mean, short of not doing any of this and sending our boaters to the isthmus for fuel, quite honestly, I don't think is an option. But you know, we have to give them some kind of service. So, and the other thing that needs to be put out there, and everybody needs to understand, there will be no more filling of golf carts from this temporary thing. Period. It just, it won't happen. So that's off the table. So go to Beverly.
Still think you're about $1,000 short for installation stuff.
So do we have?
Well, we could come back with a follow-up with a detailed projection of costs associated with installation. That was my mistake to not bring that to you.
So part of your containment, is that consist of boom they have there also?
We have a boom for the water, and then the other thing is a device that you back the trailer up into,
Right.
and then
That's your
close up
secondary.
the end of it, and it's like backing it onto Visqueen,
Okay.
and it gives, so it doesn't go into the water anywhere. And again, it won't be left there overnight. It's according to the Coastal Commission and some of what the rules that we're under, that we have to abide by, is we won't leave it there overnight.
So do we have any idea if there's a busy weekend, a nice weekend, that the shore boats, when they keep operating, you know, they're going pretty much, do we have any idea how much fuel they use? Have we contacted them at all?
I don't have that. Brian might have that information, but
I can tell you that in any day we don't sell over 500 gallons of fuel
Okay.
from November through April.
Okay.
I went through the daily receipts for last year.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It sounds like you guys thought about just about everything.
well, we hope we did. I mean, it's something that unfortunately if you know, we had more time, we could probably come up with a better mousetrap. But we're talking about second week in November, and it's right around the corner. And it's going to take, if this gets approved tonight, we got to wire the money to the company, and then it's going to be a 4-day trip on a back of a loading dock, a truck, to get it here. So we're, you know, and then it's going to take us a week or so to get what we need to do, which I have no idea what we need to do. I mean, this is a Charlie thing, and he'll come and believe me, it'll be done right and it'll be done perfect. But we got to get it here to be able to do it.
There's no doubt in my mind. I have all the confidence in the world in you guys. Thanks a lot for that presentation and having all our questions answered without us having to ask them. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, JJ.
And Dennis, did you kept standing, were you just stretching, or did you have something to say?
Good evening. I believe your original question was the additional costs of this thing. It's all going to be in-house, and it's going to be fairly minimal. Harbor Department and Public Works are going to be assisting, just running some other equipment. We have to buy a few fittings and so forth. So that was that. If you have any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you.
A few extinguishers, a few.
Council, other comments? Good. Is there a motion?
Move staff on item 3.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Let's call for the vote.
All ayes.
Okay, item number 4 is a proposed contract for professional services for temporary planning assistance from Michael Baker International. The proposal calls for Al Warrett or another designee from Michael Baker International to provide temporary oversight of the planning department in person 3 days a week, available by phone and email the other 2 days per week. We don't have a definite end date for this. We'll come back to you. This is scheduled not to exceed any more than $76,000, we'll come back to you more periodic than that to give you an update and a tally of money spent on this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on this contract.
Is there a chance that, I mean, I'm getting tired of seeing the city pay this money too, with consultants and extra people coming in. And it's obvious that the public is also getting frustrated with it. I've also got some complaints about this particular company, and it's probably not anything to do with the fact that these guys are professionals. It's that they just don't know the nuances of the city of Avalon and all the different processes that we have to go through here in Avalon, and it's just not familiar. These people are just not familiar with what we're doing here in a lot of different ways. With some of the jobs, some of the contractors, I've got complaints about this because it's just not efficient and effective right now. So it'll work, but this can't go on. That's what I'm getting at. Is this kind of spending cannot go on. I'm getting frustrated with it. The people of Avalon are, and I just wanted to lay that on the table.
Sure.
Well, this guy's got to learn more about Catalina in a quick hurry, if he's going to be on our team here.
Okay.
But it's $76,000. That's a lot of money. I mean.
Well, and it's not to exceed. I mean, it's.
Okay, is there a chance that this is not going to? What if? Is this a contract that we're in and we have to pay them no matter what?
No, it's time spent. So you don't have to get to that amount. We just don't yet know how long we're going to need their services.
And this money's coming from where?
General fund.
The general fund? Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
If we approve that and we still have the other person out on getting her salary, so we're paying double salaries now, basically?
You have an obligation to continue to pay administrative leave, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Our other option would be not to approve this contract, and we essentially don't have planning services.
That's right.
Okay. And so what does that really mean?
Yeah.
Well, that means if you come in and you want to file an application, I would have to either handle it through the administration office, and admittedly, we're not planning experts. We would probably have to make a lot of phone calls and ask a lot of questions.
Which is what's going on now anyway, so.
That's happening now as we speak, right?
And I'd like to address that. I mean, this is a very reputable firm, extremely reputable firm, and the person that's providing the services, I mean, I'm happy to take any concerns or questions that you have, but I've had some very good work that's been performed to date, and I've had some very positive comments. So, but I'd be happy to answer any concerns or questions you have. Al Warwick brings decades of experience in a number of different municipalities and is very knowledgeable. And like I said, I've already had some very good work performed.
But if we go with 3 weeks with no new applications, what do we do?
We have a lot of counter traffic. We have people with just general questions about potential projects. We have ongoing projects of significance that we need to have somebody available. We could scale back the number of days here. I could do that. We could change the system. We could say we only want to have 1 or 2 days of office hours, if you will, and as needed. Otherwise, we could provide that.
I will note that usually our municipal code provides that during the months of November and December, there's a slowdown in the planning department while we do the annual growth ordinance studies.
Mm-hmm.
So this contract is on a per hour, so there's always a slowdown in those 2 months.
Yeah. We have one person out, right? Is Christy coming back? Do we know, or is she?
And again, this has to be finalized, but she will be coming back on a part-time basis.
Part-time basis, and she's pretty familiar with all the.
She's familiar with the planning processes.
Processes.
But
right.
I would say.
And then we also have Brian, who comes 3 days, 4 days.
He's here 3 days a week.
Very knowledgeable about
He's a building
About
inspector.
A building inspector about a lot of the permits that need to be taken out, I would think.
But if there's
You don't have a
when I'll
planner.
ask him questions, he'll go, that's not my,
Yeah, you need some type of planner, and I could certainly say we could go, if your choice was to ensure that this doesn't exceed a certain amount, you could say something like, I'd like to see somebody available 1 day a week, 2 days a week, and the other days we can just use them as needed, reaching them by phone or email, that's fine. We were just trying to make sure that there
That's what
was
I'd like to
as
do.
much customer service as we could
Well,
arrange
then-
for.
I'm just wondering, what are the projects? I know, we talked about the ones for the CUPs and whatever.
There's ongoing, the significant projects in town are, well, there's two major ones going on, well, there's three. Vaughn's, obviously, there's the museum, and there's the Catalina Island Conservancy Trailhead Project. Those are the major pending projects, if you will. On top of that, there's always a remodel, a new home being built, those types of things. Now, as you've alluded to, the wintertime is the slower time of the year, and we could reduce the number of hours that we have this individual available. However, I would say, I would not recommend having no planning resource. And I would tell you that the building inspector is a knowledgeable person, but he's not a planner. And I would tell you that the administrative assistant certainly is knowledgeable about planning, but she is also not a planner.
You know, remodels, single-family infills require a high-priced planner.
You need somebody who understands the planning code and how to apply it, and that's what I'd say. I would not recommend not having a planning resource available. You could also say, you could just have them available as needed, we could do that, but I don't want to have a situation where we have nobody available.
I think you need the resource, but I don't think you need the resource a set amount of time each week.
Sure, so that's fine. So like I said, if you want to go to like 1 day a week, or do you want to go 2 days a week, or do you want to go as needed, that's all fine.
I like as needed.
Yeah, I like as needed also.
And
That'll
available
cut
by
back on the
telephone,
cost, too.
if we needed to do it that way.
The only challenge I think we may have is you do have a number of folks that come to the counter. And we can certainly say, here's a phone number, or here's an email, and you can reach out to them, or we can relay the question, you can do that. I just want to make sure that we're not falling down in the customer service area.
and what kind of, do we have all of the forms online? So I'm gonna do.
We don't have them all
remodel.
online yet, no, we don't.
But you'd have Title IX online. It's got the land use
But
and
the planning
development
code
standards.
is online, but I will tell you, the thing with planning is, and the city attorney will affirm this, it's what it means to my particular project or to my situation, and that's why having a planner available is important.
Is there anybody in this town that could come and temporarily work for us that could do this position? I mean, that's gonna be a bit less, that maybe can work with Al Horitz and convey what the requests are at the front desk, because I don't wanna leave people, the contractors coming in without somebody to talk to, or say, here's a number you can call somebody else. That would be very frustrating for people when they walk into our city office and see employees working, but nobody can help.
Starting in November, the administrative assistant will be back on a part-time basis, and so she could probably field a number of planning questions, and then defer those that she doesn't know to Al. If you wanted to use that route, we could do that. You would still probably have some days, because again, she's coming back in a part-time capacity while she's taking care of her child, that she won't be here every day of the week.
I think we should try to draw back on his hours coming over here, and if that creates a chaos and a really some kind of an incendiary situation with our public contractors and builders, we can maybe draw them back over here another day a week or something, just to mitigate some of the concerns of the public. But we gotta
That's
try
fine. I mean, what's the pleasure for the number of days?
Well, let's see, Yoli, do you want to make a comment?
Sorry. Yoli Montano, 20 Canyon Terrace. We need someone in planning 5 days a week. Do we need somebody at that huge amount of salary? Absolutely not. We have so much construction going on in this town. We have huge construction from the ground up. We have sewers falling apart. We have buildings being redone. And if we don't have planning administration in the planning department, we already have major issue with unlicensed contractors. And we need somebody to control that and be in office and know what's going on in this town. We have laterals being tied in that are tied in by unlicensed plumbers, contractors, and we are mandated by the state of California to make sure our sewer lines are all up to date because of the going into our ocean. And 3 days a week isn't going to cut it. And we need to, has this gone out to RFP?
It's not gone out for RFP. Professional services aren't required to go out for RFP.
So you're saying that we should even draw back, I mean, even drawing back from 3 days to 1 would be
No, we
really bad?
need more than 3 days. I mean, we need a planning department. We need an administrative person in there all the time. I mean, this town is going crazy with construction right now. And for someone to just come in 3 days a week, I know the first person that took over Amanda's job up from Half Moon Bay.
Steve Flynn?
Yeah, when you gave him that contract for that short period of time, I couldn't even get him to return my call or my answers or answer me. And we paid him that amount of money for what? He didn't even return my calls for weeks, you know, or get anything answered for weeks. And so how do we know that this person's going to get anything done or answered? And here we go, giving another contract, or not a contract, but a huge amount of money. How do we know he's going to even perform?
Well, he has been here already. I guess this isn't for us to debate. Well, I guess we can. But the thing is, I think some of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe some of the things that you were talking about were a building official's responsibility and not that of the planning director.
Okay.
When you talk about the unlicensed things.
Correct,
and the
but I
laterals.
don't think, I know you were saying that Brian, I don't think Brian's qualified to be a planning,
Well,
he's an inspector, so.
The other thing, this is also for oversight of the department, that this person has to ensure that certain functions are taking place. Planning department not only does building inspection, but also does some code enforcement.
So this person would act as the
temporary oversight of the planning department.
of all of the individuals that are in there.
And we definitely need one even more than 3 days a week. You know, I'm in contact with the planning department quite a bit. I try to be, but I haven't because it's been so removed. And I just think that that's a huge, huge department for our city of Avalon. That's huge. And so we really need to figure out what's going on. I mean, figure out when's the end date for this person be an administrative leave. I mean, this is city dollars, and we're paying her salary, her insurance, her everything, and then we're gonna, I mean, I know I'm saying the same thing that Danny said, but there has to be an end to this craziness. And we do need a planning department. We need someone there 5 days a week, but at that salary, well, now it's, you know, the salary's not that plus another salary, so.
We hear you, what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mayor, my original question was what would happen if we didn't approve something or come up with a solution, and that is what my worry is we cannot function without a planning department right now. There's too much going on. I spend a lot of time involved with planning to some degree as well, so I echo a lot of Yoli's statements. There is a very fine line about what we are allowed to be involved in, what we know. We cannot answer Jani's questions directly. We don't know, but I would like for the city attorney to please address a couple of those comments because we've heard them at several council meetings now, and we, for the record, we are not involved in this situation at this time. We know, we, the council, are not involved. We don't know anything. We cannot make a decision. We have no comments to make towards that. So
with respect to any matter involving any employee, except the city manager, the city council serves as the appellate body if any action is taken. And so the council is prohibited from being actively involved in any personnel matters. And I've instructed them repeatedly.
And is there any end in sight? Are we, are we allowed to know any end in sight, or?
I don't want
That
to
would be
say that in
helpful.
public because the employees all have privacy rights, but there's always an end in sight. It just depends upon outside people doing their work.
Okay.
But you do have responsibility for overseeing what's going on out in the city manager's office. And when an employee is not told why they've been put on administrative leave, when there is a 3-month delay in an investigation, this is not Watergate, this is not the assassination of JFK. I could talk to every person in this town in 3 months and look for 15 minutes. Why is it taking this long and now another proposed 3 months for something that I've read, the email that prompted the investigation? It's all very easily resolved. Facts should be gathered together and it should be handled. And the fact that it's not being, that it's being dragged on, questions the ability of the city manager to control all of these consultants. You give them money, you keep giving them money. What are they producing? Where are the results?
Thank you, Pam.
Okay, council, what is your?
So, we were talking about on a need-to basis. I hear Councilman Cassidy loud and clear because it's obvious we need somebody in that department. I'd like to draw back a day if we can, but if you guys don't want to do that, and keep the guy on we can reach him by phone for the 3rd day. If you want to do something like that, that way at least we're drawing back on some of this absurd amount of money that is being spent on this guy. But it's well spent because it's a necessary position that we need in this town right now. It's really important.
Is there sorry.
No, that's all right, go.
Is there an opportunity, I'm not familiar with this firm well enough to know, is there an opportunity for a participant from this firm who is not between $3,000 and $4,000 per week? Or that even if we were going to spend near that amount of money, could it be somebody who really was here 5 days a week for that amount of money?
So is there somebody who's less expensive on an hourly rate available? Is that the question?
Pretty much.
Yeah. You know, in some cases, you might have, in a
Sure.
law firm, you might have paralegals doing
Sure.
some work, you might have
Yeah,
less
absolutely.
experienced lawyer.
We could put together something where you have maybe like an assistant planner type person available instead, and somebody of Al's experience could be available as needed. We could do something like that. I don't know what the delta would be between his hourly rate and that person's, but it'll probably be less. We can come back with that. Sure.
Check the efficiency and effectiveness after a week or two, but I don't know if that's the greatest idea.
Well, in all fairness, I have worked with this gentleman, and I have had stellar results. So my issue is not with the person by any means, but I am concerned about $76,000 and the length of time. But we need service in that department, so we need to find a balance between getting the service and what we're capable of paying for it.
I kind of like the idea of exploring what options might be available to us. I'm not sure we need a full-time planner, but we do need a person to answer the question across the counter and process the applications.
I could certainly come back with a couple different options, and you guys could tell me which you think best suits the needs, and that's fine.
Make sure they're familiar with the office, the position.
In the interim, in the next 2 weeks, then what happened? We keep it like it is?
Yeah, when we've already, because we had a need to provide oversight, I felt we brought this individual in. It was within my spending authority, which is why we put the contract together. We commenced that, but I can certainly, between now and the next council meeting, put together some options, bring this back for you, and let you select how you want to proceed.
That'd be
perfect. That'd be great. Thank you.
And then that department will stay as it is now under the
Until then.
direction of the city manager's office?
Well,
Well, the oversight that's needed in that department for the existing employees that are there, they're being,
what I'd recommend between now and the next meeting, that we keep things as is, if you'd like me to.
oh, I see, okay.
Right, just because like I said, I think it'd be disastrous if all the planning questions started coming to administration.
Okay, I understand.
So he's here for 3 days a week?
He is.
8 hours a day? And does that include his travel time?
We pay for travel time as well.
We pay for travel time as well, so when he leaves his office over there, he clocks in and gets on the boat.
He doesn't charge, like, for the moment, he's reasonable as far as being fair.
When he's here, I mean, how much time does he spend in the office here, like 6 hours? a day?
Minimum.
Okay, minimum, okay.
So
Yeah,
we'll-
we just
could
gotta
we-
tighten up on that and try to get the maximum efficiency out of this guy and effectiveness, because we're paying that firm a lot of money, and we gotta ride them hard. If the public doesn't feel like they're getting a bargain for this, we gotta ride this guy harder and have him work harder. I mean, if he can't do it, we gotta get somebody in there that will, from the same firm if we need to, but I rest my case.
Real quick, if you don't mind, Jessica Herzog, 333 Tremont number 2. I think that the point is being lost of what Pam was trying to make, that you have a perfectly capable person in this town that you just called out for. Do we have a person in this town that can do this job? Yes, we do. So it would be great if we could get some final action and decision, and really, we are calling you to action. I think that there is a very clear press for what this town wants, and they want the member of the public returned back to her position in this town. So if you could put some pressure on the city manager to resolve this issue and wait 2 weeks and not cost us extra money by paying 2 people to do the same job, one to sit on the sidelines and one to actually do it, probably poorly, because they are not familiar with our town. So I would greatly appreciate you guys take this 2 weeks and figure out a way to resolve it in the favor of this town by being able to bring the person who knows this town back into her position. Thank you.
And again, California law prohibits the council from putting pressure on the investigation.
So we take a motion to hold this item over?
No action.
No action?
We
already did 5.
We're done 5.
Yes,
That's good.
we have a public hearing.
Yes, under item number 6 is a public hearing, the adoption of the fiscal year 15-16 miscellaneous fee schedule. Jordan Monroe is going to give a brief staff report to you on this item. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan Monroe, Management Aid. So we're just proposing an addition, new fees to the fee schedule to encompass the fats, oils, and grease program and the permit costs for that, the fog permit, as well as the other associated fees with the program. So no other fees are being addressed at this time. It's just the addition of the fog permit fee. If you see, we break it down to what's called out in the municipal code for the fees. We have the actual permit fee itself, which we're proposing to be $323 attached to their business, the food service establishment's business license each year. We got to that number of $323 by calculating all of the fees associated with administrating this. So that includes the hard costs of the actual binders that we're producing to give to each food service establishment for their implementation of the program, the costs for the actual inspections of the food service establishments, administrative time, and then the administrative costs for the Charles Abbott Associates assistants that we contracted out earlier. We spread out those costs over 5 years in building this fee because the permit, as per the code, is not to exceed 5 years, so every 5 years they'd have to reapply. But if nothing changes, we don't anticipate anything changing with the application. It's just to keep it noticed and updated, which is why we spread the fee out over 5 years to help get that annual cost down. Otherwise, they'd be charged, each food service establishment would be charged the full cost of Charles Abbott Associates, which is the largest portion of this fee right now in this 1 year, which would dramatically increase the costs. So we thought that was the most fair way to move it forward. The additional fees for a follow-up inspection, that is, just for a standard inspection, which is just the fee for when a new food service establishment comes in and anything changes, and they need to be inspected to determine whether they need a grease control device or not. The fee for that can be kept down low because we can put that in conjunction with the biannual inspections. So we have service already conducted, so they can fill that in. The re-inspection fee is higher, and that is due to the fact that it would require a special specific trip, or that could be conducted either by our contract inspectors or by our building inspector. But it's a trip that they'd have to take out because the food service establishment failed some portion of their inspection. So it reflects that additional time for administrative time as well as for the inspection. And then the other fees, in case they lose this amazing binder that we've spent a lot of time putting together, the hard costs for actually just producing a new binder. We wouldn't be buying as many of the actual volume that we bought now because we're implementing it all at once. We calculated the costs for reproducing them, and so it's $50 a binder. And then we've made these wonderful little posters that will go up in each food service establishment to help them with their best management practices. And the actual cost for printing those one-off, as opposed to the bulk discount that we were able to get as we're implementing the program, brings out the cost to $15. We're also proposing to help out our local food service establishments, since this is a big program. It is a big implementation. We've done our best to facilitate and help them out as much as possible. One of the ways is we implemented this in 2 phases. Phase 1 is the under the sink grease control device, which is a cheaper option than phase 2, which is complete pump plumbing of your food service establishment through a grease control device, which typically involves an under the ground unit. So we phased it out, and for this first phase, we're proposing that if the food service establishment completes the installation and gets it all signed off by December 31st of this year, that this first year's fee is waived, because they have other additional costs, the actual unit itself, the plumber, LA County Department of Public Health costs. So to try and help manage that cost as much as possible for them, we're proposing waiving that first year's fee, which if every food service establishment that is required to put in a grease control device meets that deadline, that would be a little over $12,000 that the city wouldn't recover in revenue. But then starting next year, associated with the business licenses, we would continue to recover the fee costs for it. It is something that we'd have to reestablish and evaluate each year where the costs kind of stand, and we do anticipate once we pay off the Charles Abbott Associates administrative fees, we don't at this time anticipate any other administrative needs. We could see the fee possibly going down, but once we recover that full costs. And that's pretty much the sum of it.
Questions?
I have a quick question. Item 1, section I, number 1, the last sentence, all FSCs must be compliant by 3/31/15. Is that 15 or 16?
16.
That was a typo on my fault.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure. I was very confused, so it is 16, okay.
And who's actually doing the inspections?
That's Abbott.
Well, so our consultant, CAA, Charles Abbott Associates, they came around and did an assessment inspection through all the FSCs to determine whether they needed a grease control device or not, and then worked with them to kind of help them understand what they'd need, where it would go, how it would work, walk them through the process a little bit. And then they would continue to do the actual biannual inspections that's required by the municipal code to make sure that everything's operating properly, that they have their binder in the facility, that they're maintaining their maintenance logs, that they have their manifests for when their grease was picked up, that everything's kept in order and track. And this isn't just for the fun of it, it's to make sure that the program's operated successfully, which is to the benefit of the food service establishment, because if they're not properly maintaining their grease control device, it can cause backups, bad smells, overflows in their food facility, which is something that they don't want. So having this kind of rigorous follow-up that is required is to their benefit. And then, of course, the actual program itself is required of the city, so we don't have a choice in implementing it. We felt this was the easiest way to implement it for all of our restaurants in kind of this phased approach.
And I noticed there were a couple of companies that came the other day and showed the grease collection things. Do a large percentage of our restaurants currently have those things, or?
No, we have 40 restaurants, food service establishments that need one. We have about a handful that currently have something, but we need to formalize the permitting with that food service establishment. But we have 40 that don't have anything and need something. And so the city did facilitate kind of an open house meet and greet to recognizing that island factor where our food service establishments don't know exactly what they need. So we tried to help coordinate this event to just help make this process as smooth and easy as possible. So we had a few vendors that came over. They aren't endorsed by the city. We're not recommending specific vendors. We're just providing the opportunity for them to meet and come out here. And we figured it's easier if they came here instead of our residents trying to go off and meet everybody. So we're trying to kind of work through this process as much as possible. The LA County Department of Public Health, we've got one point of contact for them to go through this approval for them, and they've been very helpful in working this out. And they're looking to see if they can help minimize their fees associated with the process and speed up their timeline a little bit faster than normal through the one point of contact we have. So all in all, in terms of the total cost for the program for the restaurants, while it is something significant because it's more than they had before, we think we've done a pretty good job of minimizing that cost as much as possible.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Any comments? Okay.
Public hearing?
Oh, yes, then we need to open the public hearing. Public comment?
Pam Albers, owner Cafe Metropole. So as I understand it, the bill will come with my business license charges in December, and it will cover the period for January through December of 2016. Is that how it'll work?
Yeah, your first. So when you pull a permit, you collect the fee at the time of the permit. Right now, we're proposing to waive that first fee, and then moving forward, for each additional year, you'll be charged. So I suppose I'd have to think about it. I think this fee would probably cover, since we're starting December 31st, the fee that we'd waive would be for this upcoming year. And then starting the next year is when it would be associated with the business license.
2017.
So, and there are a lot of costs associated with that, so I certainly appreciate staff's suggestion that the fee be waived. I just think that it's an unreasonable and unrealistic expectation to be able to do it by December 31st, simply because, like, I looked around my kitchen, I realized I don't have any electricity, and this machine runs on electricity. So not only do I have to buy the machine, get somebody to draw the plumbing plans for it, but I have to deal with with an electrician as well, and I'm sure other restaurants are going to come across some of these other things. So I know that December 31st is doable. The other problem is, too, that there's only one point of contact, which is a good thing in the health department. They're going to learn the island factor, and there'll be one person that you talk to. But it also means that if you have everybody racing to get their approvals by December 31st, that person's going to get buried, and that's not really anything I can control. I can control that I've submitted my plans, I can control that I've made the commitment or purchased the machine, and could certainly submit evidence of that to staff, but I don't know that I can do these other things in order to take advantage of delaying this $323.
But I think that's what I was just asking. FSCs must be compliant by 3/31/16. So that's actually that's about 5 months from now.
The proposal is to waive the fee for the 2016 if you have everything done by December 31st.
Oh, I see, okay.
And again, this is part of the cease and desist order requirement, and the requirements for this have been in place for some time. We're not just all of a sudden imposing the requirements. The requirements have been in place. Now we're charging a fee for compliance.
What we've been working on is kind of a learning curve to make things as smooth as possible. We recognize December 31st is a quick timeline, which is one why we wanted to reward people for getting on top of things. With the health department, they have their standard plan check is 20 days. In our conversations with them, having the one point of contact, they believe they should be able to turn around the plan check in 10 days. But again, we are very aware of the impact this has on the food service establishments, and in the spirit of trying to make it as accommodating as possible, this is what we came up with. If it turns out that maybe this timeline of December 31st was unreasonable. We couldn't get things through the health department. You know, there's a possibility that we could maybe extend that December 31st deadline, but
Jordan, could you explain how many meetings we've had and what type of public outreach we've done on this project?
we have had, well, we initially had our introductory meeting to the FOG program in the early 2014, when we first introduced it to all the food service establishments. We didn't have all the procedures in place, and so they didn't necessarily have what they needed to do, but everybody was noted that this was going to happen, and we proposed the two-phased implementation, which included phase 1 of the under-the-sink unit. And at that time, all the FSCs had been inspected and been given notice of their status, of what they would need to do, whether they'd have to put in a unit or not. We then conducted a second town hall meeting, geez, I can't remember the date now, within the last couple of months, to let everybody know that we've now been working with the health department, working through our code, working through this process, working with Charles Abbott Associates to propose this, the project timeline as well as the project implementation procedures to try and have that as smooth as possible to minimize all the back and forth of I was told this, I was told something separate, or anticipating as many questions as possible. And then we did an inspection at the end of September, or an assessment with Charles Abbott Associates, going through all of the FSCs, where he took out this binder and showed them all what they have, what to expect, where the unit should go, what the process will be with the health department. And then we hosted the meet and greet at the beginning of October to try and let everyone know. We've created an email blast group, so we try and send out as much information as possible and encourage all of our FSCs, if they learn anything or know of a device that works or have any insights, feel free to share them with me, because we'll share them right back out with the entire group so we can benefit from everybody's knowledge and learning, since it is kind of a new thing. I mean, that's been the hard part. It's new for everyone. It's new for us. It's new for the restaurants. And it's somewhat new for the health department, because the reason each FSC has to go and apply for the variance is because it is a variance of their code. We had asked the health department for a blanket variance, since the city is recommending this for all of our restaurants. Why can't we just let everybody get approval? But they said, unfortunately, since it's a variance of their code, they have to issue individual approval and approve each one individually. So we've minimized it as much as possible. We know it is a tight timeline. The code states that the FSCs do have to have the units or be in compliance with the FOG program within 6 months of being noticed. So we had noticed them a while ago. We felt it was fair to start the time at our most recent noticing, starting October 1st when we had the September meeting. So then it gave 6 months from October 1st, because we said, well, now this is when we really have more of the procedures of the program in place. And that's the difficult part. So since we had that in place, that's where we said we're starting our 6 months now, and then we wanted to try and move that forward as fast as possible. So I know there are some circumstances like that make it more difficult. We try and anticipate as many as possible. Not all the units do require electricity, some do, some don't. That may be the best for some of the FSCs, which is an additional consideration for the planning process. But I mean, I'm willing to work with the restaurants as much as possible to see if we can, how best to accommodate them and what is truly reasonable and what's not.
Yeah, I just wanted, I mean, there's been a fair amount of outreach and really trying to let people know what's going on.
Council, with your permission, the bottom line is we want everybody to be compliant by March. If your desire is to waive that fee into January, February, it was our recommendation just to entice people to hurry up and do it. We just want it done.
Exactly.
So.
And we have, regarding the fees, the city has spent the bulk of the money already. So we've already allocated those funds through our contract with CAA and through the purchasing of the materials needed, and then my time and staff's time. Mm-hmm. So in terms of, it's not additional funds that we would be losing, it's just not recovering the cost for the funds that we've expended thus far. So yes, Denise is absolutely right. Our goal is compliance, and we just wanted to help encourage that compliance. So I have no problem moving that date to help make sure people can comply, but making it realistic and holding to it. But the 31st date is kind of you have to be compliant by that time.
And with these dates, this is the first time they've seen the timeline, though.
The only thing that's the first
business
time, I
community.
think, is the incentivized date. That's it. Everything else has been out there.
Okay.
It's just we're offering this promotional opportunity. That's all it is. Everything else has been discussed.
We noticed then that it was a 6-month implementation from the beginning, and at our meeting in September, we specifically stated this timeline that we were proposing, so that was the middle of September, I think, to begin October 1st, technically. So.
All right. Well, council, what's your pleasure? Do you want to stay with the timeline they developed, or do you want a little leniency? Any other comments? Let's close the public hearing. Mayor Pro Tem, you have a comment? Is there a motion to adopt the resolution with that timeline?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution setting new fees for services, facilities, and activities of the City of Avalon for fiscal year 2015-16.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
With direction that what the specific ordinance does, or the resolution does include the timeline, because
Right.
Exhibit A is the timeline,
Right,
so.
I understand.
Okay.
Further.
So if businesses have a hard time making this deadline, they can come to the city and ask the city for lenience on this, right? Or is that?
We're trying to work with everybody on this. I mean, we've done a lot of outreach. We've gone to everybody. So at this point, you know, if sure, of course, the answer is we want to help, but you need to come forward with what your specific situation is so we can be helpful.
Okay.
We're trying to incentivize getting this work done by waiving a fee if you can do it by the end of the year. If not, you've got until the end of March. But yeah, we've done a lot of outreach, trying to work with everybody so they understand what's involved.
And ordering these things are just, if I picked up the phone and called for that little black one that I saw, it would arrive in a week or so? I mean, so I order this thing, and then what do I have to do?
Yeah, so you pull your permit with the City of Avalon. Obviously, you want to have some idea of what it is you're trying to, what device you're wanting to use. From the city's perspective, our main concern is that you meet the California Plumbing Code and the Municipal Code standard for sizing, which is based on your drainage for the sink that it's hooked into. So if you know that, you can pretty much size your unit. From there, you take it to the LA County Department of Public Health through their plan check, and they've provided a checklist of what they need, a letter of how you're going to operate and maintain it, your scale drawing of where it's going to go in the kitchen area so they know, a few things like that. They have a plan check turnaround of 20 days. However, they have stated that they anticipate and hope to get it out as soon as 10.
Right.
As soon as 10. So anywhere between 10 and 20 days. So you can go out that far. If you pull your plan check today and just turn it in. And then once you get that approved, you come back to the city for rough approval. So you show your plans. You basically show the same thing you showed the health department to the city. We sign off on a rough approval. You can do your install. After you install, you come back to the city. We do an inspection to make sure that it wasn't installed backwards or things like that. And once that's approved, they take it back to the health department, and they do an inspection to make sure that it meets their health standards. And then you bring it back to the city, and we're done.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are a lot of steps to it.
There are a lot of steps.
But we tried to get them as clearly defined as possible with as clear requirements as possible. So everybody's very wide open as to what's needed. And that's for our benefit as well, because I don't want a whole lot of back and forth questions where we have to figure it out. So that's part of the reasoning for it. So there is a lot that has to be done.
Right.
I mean, that's why initially we felt that December 31st deadline, while very ambitious, was the reward for being ambitious and taking care of it.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
as Denise said,
Yeah.
and I totally agree, the goal is to get it into the system. We have allocated the funds.
Right.
If we think a more reasonable timeline is slightly later, we can see if we want to play it and see how it is kind of playing out. What I don't want is to reward FSEs that are not
Right.
working hard.
I mean, there's something about this that makes it's very cut and dry, and that is fine. That's the date and that's the date. However, there's and to create a bunch of subjectivity on your part or whoever's overseeing this, it kind of doesn't seem fair. However, I mean, it would be quite obvious if I don't buy the unit if I buy the unit in December 15th, you know darn well that's not going to happen. If I've shown due diligence in getting that, I guess, in a way, I'm almost thinking that some flexibility, again, but if the subjectivity creates more of a hassle than it's worth, I'm a little concerned about that, too.
Mayor, would you be comfortable with just moving it 1 month deadline? If every establishment did it, it's about $13,000 that we'd be losing, I guess. But it doesn't matter because it's going to help our sewer system and we'll be in compliance, so. If your motion would be to move that date and the resolution.
Okay, I mean, I think you're kind of reading my mind, I think that's great, but we've got a motion on the table, so let's go with that and see.
Do you want to amend your motion, Cindy, just to change the resolution?
I mean, as we're hearing this, we've heard so much about the FOG program, a lot, for over the last 2 years. So this is not new. Everybody knows this is coming down the pipeline. There are some extenuating circumstances, but I don't want to amend this. This was an incentive that city staff came up with to try to get a majority of these done sooner. It's an incentive. You go buy a car, you don't get to go back and say, well, I can't get my financing in order before then, so I want the incentive a month or 2 months down the road. I mean, it's an incentive. We still need to recover the costs of the program. This is all from the cease and desist. I mean, if the health department comes down and says, we cannot look at your application for 30 to 45 days out, then to me, that's an extenuating circumstance. But this has been in process for quite some time.
Okay, but we just brought the units over a week and a half ago or something. So I don't know if everybody showed up for that or whatever. I don't know.
I have no problem making it January 31st. The goal of us is to get this completed.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want to recover our costs. We have already spent the money. I don't have a problem with that. I think December 31st is fair. I think it's ambitious, but it's fair.
Yeah.
But, to help out our restaurants, that's what we are doing our darndest to help them out. And if we really want to do that is not a problem. I think we still need to hold some people accountable if you're beyond some certain date, and it is what it is.
Yes.
We just wanted to we wanted to recognize the additional hardship that they had, and this was our idea.
I would kind of like to see it extended out for 1 month, only because the next couple of months, the holidays are coming up. You got days there's not 5 days a week. You're working 3 days a week because of the holidays. Then you got Christmas and everybody's not here. Offices are shut, so that you're losing days to try to meet that deadline. I don't think it's really fair for them, but I'd like to see it extended to January 31st, personally.
Okay, well, there's a motion on the table and
But
there's
she has a motion.
Well, I will amend my motion to adopt the resolution setting the new fees for service facilities and activities of the City of Avalon for fiscal year 15-16 with the timeline in place. However, the proposed incentive to be January 31st, 2016 in order to receive the waiver of the first year's permit fee.
I'll amend my second.
moving second for the comment. Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Mayor, can we take just a 2-minute break before we proceed to the
You
next
think we
item?
should?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Think
okay,
everybody needs
please.
to take a break.
Thank you.
Take a break.
He is a funny dude.
And we are back from break. Item number 7.
Yes, Mayor. Item number 7 is the consideration of a waterside permit application from Mr. David Lieberman, doing business as Catalina Snorkel and Scuba Adventures. This is a follow-up to an item that you had in closed session at your last meeting. There was a temporary period with conditions established for the 2 weeks prior to this. I'd like for you to hear tonight not only from the harbor master, but also from the city attorney to explain where we are procedurally as well as what took place in the last couple of weeks, if you don't mind.
Should we start with the city attorney?
That's fine. You want to explain where we are procedurally?
Yeah, we have 2 court cases pending. The first one is a criminal case brought by the city against Mr. Lieberman. I believe that matter is set for trial at the end of this month. In addition to that, we have a civil action brought by Mr. Lieberman. That matter is been continued, and I believe that hearing is either later this week or early next week. In both instances, we've been working with the court to get continuances to this point while we attempt to resolve the matter. The attorneys have discussed a framework for resolving it, but it is obviously subject to your approval. The one thing I can tell you is that it is, at least the judge in the civil case has indicated that he's not inclined to give any more continuances. In other words, if you don't decide tonight, he's going to rule on certain motions that are pending. And so that's where we are with respect to the legal basis and what's been going on. We have been in communication throughout the past 2 weeks with Mr. Lieberman and his attorneys on the various trial period and what we've learned and what we've not. The one thing I would have been asked for the record, because Mr. Lieberman's attorney sprained her ankle and cannot be here, is there was one thing where Mr. Lieberman's people were gathered by the shuttle bus stop in the Cabrillo Mall, and the attorneys indicated to us that that was because those people that were on Mr. Lieberman's tour were going to the restroom, and so we took pictures of them while they were going to the restroom. That's the story that I've been asked to convey to you. And Mr. Lieberman can probably validate that because he was there, I was not.
So this second photo is the restroom photo?
We can have the harbor master speak to some of these things that we have during the
Yeah.
temporary period.
Good evening. On October 6th, you had reached a tentative settlement agreement with terms and conditions that were to be complied with. And October 13th, the following week, the code enforcement staff had observed the applicant had his motorized scooters on the top of the stairs at Lovers Cove stored there for more than 45 minutes before his tour. And then when he was looking for him, he found him at the mall, and all of his people were gathered there by the bus stop between Float 4 and the Catalina Express office. Whether that's where they gathered or whether he gathered them at the grass area and then walked there, I don't know.
And the scooters are as powered snorkeling devices?
Yes. The whole reason for the code enforcement is they were sent out there to measure the area that the truck encompasses to establish the space that would be needed for the encroachment permit. And the email that I got from the applicant, he said that he would be giving tours out there at noon. So at noon, the code enforcement went out to measure the truck, and the truck wasn't there, and he stayed there for like 50 minutes until the tour people had arrived.
And just so you know, under the municipal code, there are certain factors that the city must consider in looking at waterside permits, specifically and encroachment permits generally. They deal with public safety. If you look at the conditions of approval, conditions number 1, 12 persons per guide. Number 2, keep them away from the glass bottom boat fairway. Number 4 is the standard conditions. Those all deal with the safety issues. Mr. Bray is able to address those. The other conditions deal with the siting of the business, and specifically we had originally required several years ago that Mr. Lieberman obtain a place of business where he can sign up people and kind of organize his tours. As part of the proposed settlement, we would allow them to sign up on the Grassy Knoll, where currently, since the cruise ships have moved, that's where a lot of people are signing up. And then his request is that he be allowed to have vehicles parked in Lover's Cove 30 minutes before, 45 minutes during, and 30 minutes after, and he can address the reasons why he thinks that is necessary.
Is this the time where we get information regarding the 2-week period that we just had? I mean, how did things go?
Other than the 2 incidents that I mentioned from the October 13th, where he had stored scooters and also had gathered people there on the mall, we had no issues this week.
I will say code wasn't able to observe anything. They had call-outs for other items.
Let me ask a question. Were these 2 issues discussed with the applicant at all? Or we just have photos and there was a discussion about, please in the future don't block the stairs or?
Well, I think that's a given.
You spoke to them?
No, I know that it's a given that you shouldn't block the stairs. I have not spoken to him. It's all between city attorney and his attorney.
And their attorneys have indicated that they will not place equipment on the top of the stairs, that they have, that was incorrect, and that will not happen.
Should I ask at this time if we have questions for the applicant?
Mr. Freeman?
Or comments by the applicant?
No.
Okay.
One thing that is not in the staff report is the amount of the encroachment permit. We were suggesting that that amount be the rate, the rate and the lease rate for the square footage occupied by those vehicles.
Did we ever get that measured?
225 square feet. That's a 9 by 25 feet.
That includes the vehicle plus some standing room or no?
Whatever was in that picture is what code measured. The van trailer, I don't know what to call it now.
Does that 9 by 25 or whatever, that 225 square feet, is that just the vehicle? Would you guess? Because you should know the size of your vehicle, right, David?
I think it's 8 feet wide. I don't think it's 9.
Okay. But it didn't include where the people stand, it's just, okay.
No.
Yeah.
It did not include the people.
Right,
no.
okay, the space that is encroaching. Comments?
Public comments?
Public comments?
Jessica Herzog, 333 Tremont, number 2. I would just like to say that I would love to see this issue resolved in a positive way so that Dave can continue work. He was my employer in the past, and this entire fiasco being brought to everybody's attention in the peak of summer basically ruined my summer, forced me to be out of work and have to find replacement jobs for the work that I was getting from him. I am able to work from a home office to help organize his tours and book his tours. And so because I have a newborn, that gives me the great freedom of being able to stay home with him, forcing him to have an office, which I know you're talking about allowing that to not be mandatory. I would be in favor of that as well, because it would put me in a position of losing my job once again if that was something that was to be forced upon him. And again, I appreciate your time and consideration on this. You all did receive a letter from me in the past, and I asked for your consideration when this was just one lawsuit, and now we're facing two, so I hope that we can come to an amicable agreement and let this man get back to work so the rest of us can also do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments of the public? No? Council?
I'm just not sold on the, the parking. I mean, the size of that thing, how long it is. I'd like to see it cut back from the times that we have on here. It just seems to me that it's just a big eyesore out there. Every time you go out there, every time you look, every time it was all cleaned up at one time. I don't know what the status is of this equipment and gear, how you can put it down or where you can put it down. But to have that big truck out there like that for any length of time is too long sometimes, other than to unload your gear and stuff like that and come back and leave. But I just have a little problem with that.
If we issued encroachment permit for that, would that make that eligible for the sign ordinance?
I'm just chuckling because that's an interesting question. It's an unusual application of the encroachment permit as it stands.
As part of the encroachment permit, part of the conditions that you can put on are for health, safety, and welfare. You could determine that the sign on the vehicle in that pristine location would ruin that area or the view, and that so you could condition the encroachment permit upon taking that sign off the vehicle.
Okay.
Is it the size of it, the size of this sign that you have an issue
Yeah,
with?
it's in excess of 8 square feet.
The size of the truck, yeah.
Okay.
Personally.
Just real quick, I just wanted to address Richard's concern because I did lead scuba diving and snorkeling tours for the first 4 years when I moved here in 2000 to 2004. And it's a very difficult process to get multiple people put into wetsuits, pulled them out, to have extra staff where you would have to remove your source of all your gear and then bring it back for a 45-minute window doesn't make a whole lot of sense for anybody involved. Also, the fact that there used to be a full-time vehicle there, and now you guys are being able to enjoy the fact that it'll come and go and not have to be there at sunset or sunrise or, you know, block the pristine view for people to look at from the ocean or from the shoreline, I think should be considered in the fact that a half an hour is a very small window to gear up multiple people and get them in the water safely and be able to do your job without making the guests of this island feel rushed or uncomfortable as if they have to, you know, perform to somebody's standards that they're not going to understand. They're not going to know any of this stuff has happened. So whatever restrictions we put on this business is going to trickle down and directly affect the guests that, you know, I had to turn away all summer long. There were hundreds and hundreds of people I had to tell, I'm sorry, I have to partially ruin your vacation by canceling, or I can't complete your request for your vacation because we're not able to open or operate. There's definitely enough business in this town for everybody, so it would be great if we could just all be on the same team and try to make operating a business as easy as possible with each other, because it is a lot of work and it takes a lot of time to care for people properly so they do have a good experience, so that they want to come back and tell their friends that they enjoyed their time here on Catalina. Thank you.
Well, first let me say I too would like to see this be resolved. And I would like to see any and all willing and able persons who want to conduct business in Avalon, who are willing to abide by all of our city ordinances and rules, be allowed to do so. So that being said, my hope is that we come to some sort of an agreement tonight that allows Mr. Lieberman to continue his operations. I am stuck on number 5, which is the vehicle. I've talked to members of the public. I've heard other concerns. I'd wish that more were here to convey some of their concerns that they did convey to me tonight. The sole issue that I have at this point is the size of the vehicle and that vehicle being parked at Lover's Cove. I could offer a compromise of being allowed to park an autoette there, but the size of the vehicle is just something I'm really struggling with. And I also, with allowing this vehicle to be parked there, giving an encroachment permit, it sets a precedent that other members of the community would like to have that same option. So if we're gonna go back to allowing folks to run their operations out of Lover's Cove and park vehicles there and conduct business there, then we need to allow that to all members of the public to do. And so bringing that back to how that relates to this particular topic, we start here, we agree to that here. I don't have any grounds to say no to anybody in the future. And what I know members of my constituency don't want to see is a parking lot in Lover's Cove. It's one of the few open spaces we have left. So if that helps in any way, I'll just lay out my concerns there. So I'd be willing to compromise with autoette, but the 9 by 25 feet is, and the large vehicle is a little bit too much for me to feel comfortable with.
And for my knowledge, since I'm not a diver and haven't spent any real time out there, previously the equipment was put out there by Autoette. At one point you operated with an Autoette there. What? Yeah, please.
I had a full-size truck that I would use, and an Autoette, both. And that still didn't cover enough room for me to transport all my equipment. That's why I got that truck.
So you would have, at one point, you'd have both out there at the same time?
Sometimes 3, if we had big numbers, yeah. And in the summertime, it is a parking lot out there. There's a lot of golf carts that go out there.
Yeah, but no big trucks. Golf
Big
carts.
Yep.
And I have a question on number 8. You'll be limited to no more than 9 tours per week.
Correct.
Tell me how that's scheduled, kind of.
That was just an agreement between Tamara and my attorney.
So if you have 1 to 12, that's considered a tour, right? 1 guide to 12 is a tour.
Yeah.
And then, so on one day, you could do
2.
Only 2 tours.
If that's part of the 9.
Okay.
No,
I'm confused.
I think the counting is
per week.
Is it?
So we're confusing 2 things, I
Right.
believe. We're confusing the number of participants per tour leader, right? That was
Right.
one of the conditions.
That's 1 to 12, yes.
But I don't, so in other words, if you had multiple tour leaders that met where's the harbor master, that met the number requirement, am I misunderstanding that part, Brian?
So that doesn't mean it's 2 tours.
Right, so let's say you had 36 people.
Correct.
Okay, let's say one day you have 36 people.
At 1 o'clock.
Sorry?
At 1 o'clock.
At 1 o'clock.
That's 1 tour.
Okay, and you have.
That's 1 tour, right?
And you have, if you have 3,
Safety
Guides.
personnel.
right, to accompany the participants, right? Am I stating that correctly?
I would agree with Ole. If you had 36 people at 1 o'clock, that would be 1 tour, even though you had 3 guides giving that tour.
Right, but yeah, so, does that make sense?
Oh, okay, okay.
So you have 9 tour times scheduled a week, upwards
Times.
of...
Tour equals time. Because you're having to adhere to the other requirements that establish your safety threshold.
And basically, it's 1 tour a day then, because you can only be there for
No.
30 minutes,
No.
45 minutes.
It says right here, 9 tours per week. So it doesn't mean that you could only do one tour per day.
So if, for example, he had 3 tours scheduled on each of the 2 cruise ship days, and he had 3 tours, he would essentially be parked there all day.
Is that how you understand it as well?
Because I can't park there all day. I can only do 30 minutes prior, 45 minutes during, and 30 minutes after. I have to leave.
But if you have 3 tours scheduled on sequentially.
Well, first off, I don't offer that. The most I do is 2.
Okay, so 2 you're gonna be out there for.
So we go there for about an hour and 45 minutes, leave for a while, a couple hours, go back again for another hour and 45 minutes.
So it's about close to 4.5 hours, 5 hours a day, if he has the 2 tours. Because you can go back, get something to eat, and then come again. Okay. Well, let's, if she's talking Autoette, what other options would you have for vehicles currently?
The only thing I can think of that I could do is drop the gear off and swap that out for another vehicle, because getting the gear back, I don't need as big a vehicle. I need the stuff organized so we can get it out quickly. So maybe I can park there less time.
And
so over the last 2 weeks, I was only parked there, because that's what I've been doing, half an hour over the last 2 weeks. I would take that vehicle, take it to my storage unit, swap it out with something else, and then so that's an Autoette that we've been using. So I have not been utilizing that full time at all, and only a small portion of it has been the big truck.
So if you do a tour in Lovers Cove, and you've got something going on in the dive park, then you move it out there, right? So that's in those cases, I mean, because you can have things simultaneously. They can be diving at Lovers, and, I mean, they can be 2 places at once. So your truck could be out at
Right, but I
Casino
don't
Point.
need as much equipment to take someone diving.
Oh, that's a small little,
Yeah.
okay.
May I suggest that one remedy may be that if the council's inclination is to issue a waterside permit, that the one thing on the hours or the time for the vehicle there, we can come back in 6 months and relook at that time to see how it's actually worked, rather than we've just had, I think maybe 4 or 5 tours in the last week. He's indicated that his time has actually been less than he's asked for, and so you could set a time limit to come back and look at that one aspect of it.
And let me ask you, do you just rent gear so I can just go out and snorkel all by myself?
No.
You're just strictly
We do
tours?
not do any gear rentals.
Okay, just tours. Okay.
It's only tours. And there was a mention about signing people up. I don't sign anyone up. Those are all sales done either prior to them coming to the island, through their website, or on the ship. Nothing happens there on shore. I don't do any of that sign-up stuff. That's not what I do.
The waivers.
The waivers, though, they have to sign the waivers.
Well, they sign the waivers, but I don't sign them up to take money or anything like that. It's all through the ship.
So it's the waiver is the only thing that's
The
signed?
waivers are signed there, yes. That's
So you have a
correct.
contract with the ship?
Yeah.
That's what you do.
And on one of those photographs, I did stop to point out where the restrooms were, but we did walk from, they call the grassy knoll that's all dirt now.
And then Dave, just because I would happen to know this, all of your guides are certified, and you're affiliated with Patty, I believe?
No.
Or who are you affiliated with?
I'm SSI.
SSI, I'm sorry.
I have a NAUI instructor that comes out.
Okay, and then
And Patty, too.
are all of your guides insured as well?
They absolutely have to.
Okay, and is that still, this is a question for Scott, if you can answer it, or the harbor master. Is everybody still required to show their certification and insurance as part of the waterside permit? That used to be a condition of the permit back when I was
Still is.
involved.
You'd have it on you, is that right?
That is a condition of the permit where they have to list everyone who works for them and give a copy of their certification.
Okay.
Right.
And you have that?
So certification and insurance.
I don't have it yet because there's not a current waterside permit.
Okay.
But that's not a problem, that you've done that in the past.
It shouldn't be.
And let me just add, because part of the settlement agreement, the tentative settlement agreement, was that there's a release agreement that he's signed, so that be a condition, so that we end all the litigation, both sides. That he's already applied for and been issued a discharge permit, so the water that used in cleaning the material goes directly into the wastewater treatment. We've got a place for that. And I believe there was an agreement that we'd get either bi-weekly or monthly accounts and detailed accounts as to how many sales he's made, so that we can take that information and make certain that we're getting accurate gross receipts and the harbor use fees from those. So we were asking that he supply that, I think it was bi-weekly. So every other week, he gives us the detailed list of the number of tours he's sold.
And there was no problem with that?
The only thing I've been told is that I have to email Brian prior to the tour and at what time the tour is.
Right. And we'd include in that the number of people in the tour.
That's never been done before, right?
No.
Has that been done over the last 2 weeks?
No, I didn't know anything about it.
Got to be a mind reader.
Do you have a problem moving forward with that and
No, I have
providing
no
the?
problem with that at all.
Is it important to know the times of the tours, or more important to get the 2-week accounting?
Well, it's both, because we want to know when the tours are doing, because again, this is going to be I'm going to say what's called a lawyer word, a strict liability. We're giving him these conditions. We're giving him something that is, we're giving him several permits, and he's got to comply, and if not, then we come back to the council to revoke the permit and the encroachment permit. So we want to have measurable things that he's required to do in terms of giving us, the number of people and when the time of the tours are, so we can monitor compliance.
Okay. So should we get back to the vehicle concept then and what we want to do then?
I really, since it was sort of my concern there, maybe a little bit of Richard's too, I would be willing to, in the spirit of moving forward with some sort of reconciliation, would be willing to give this a try till the end of the year, till 12/31, to have an opportunity to see how it goes with the larger vehicle, and then come back and make a decision at that time on item number 5 in here. And that would at least give us an opportunity to go forward. I think 2 weeks was a little short of a time period to really look at everything and how it was going. So I'm not sure if that's something that you would be amicable to, or if
Well, how do we do that then with?
I think we do it that, because we typically renew waterside permits in January, that what we would agree to is that this waterside permit goes for 14 and a half months, but that in the January renewal of all the other waterside permits, we take a look at condition number 5.
You're talking January 2016?
Yes.
Well, I need my attorney to know all about this first.
Right, I understand. Well, we can condition it, and then they can decide whether to go forward or not.
Okay, then let's go to just other concerns I've heard around the room. If his truck's out there for the next 2.5 months or whatever, or 14, what about the signage?
I really have a problem with the signage. I mean, he's not selling anything, he's already sold it. Why do we need the massive signs that are bigger than anything else? That I just have an issue with signage.
Any comment on that one?
Yeah, I don't know what I would do.
What's that?
I have no idea, just to remove it?
Yeah, go to a legally conforming sign, which is 8 square feet. And we also have the issue of the encroachment permit and the fees associated with it.
Can he cover the sign?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have to paint it
think so.
out, but just
Put something over
put
it.
something over it? Okay. Okay, so it sounds kind of like there's a little agreement there.
Okay.
Okay. And then now let's talk about the square footage. The current for outdoor space or whatever is 350 a square foot?
9.5 times.
Yes.
Yes. And so,
Wasn't outdoor dining that we were using though.
But it is occupying an entire space that nobody else can use, so
Right.
that's $4 a square foot.
Okay,
And
so
then-
how, I'm sorry, Mayor, excuse me. How do you, that to me is confusing. So you would pay the encroachment permit fee in an amount set by us, calculated by the total area the applicant uses and the length of time.
Yeah.
So,
No,
I mean,
It's not gonna be length of time. It's gonna be $4 times the square foot, and that's what it'll be for the month.
okay, but it says in here, and the length of time their commercial vehicle is parked. So that would just need to be updated.
Right.
Okay, so if at $4 a square foot, it would be about $900 a month, would be the encroachment permit fee.
Right, we're not gonna go, administratively, it's gonna be too hard to go out and measure the increments by the tours each week and.
That's why I was asking
Yeah.
it be changed in the,
Yeah.
do you have any comment to that?
Wow, that's a lot for just parking there for a few minutes per week. That's a lot of money, especially if I go there, drop off the gear, and then leave with that big truck and return with something smaller. What you guys thought would be maybe a better idea?
Are there any days you're not working out there?
Yeah, most of the days. I'm only there when the cruise ship, when Carnival's there, Monday and Tuesday.
You could establish a condition that this is valid for those days.
Well, could it be or I'm just throwing stuff out there, could it just be prorated based on it's a, whatever, 7 a week?
hold on, I'm calculating.
Okay.
I mean, if you were to break it out per day, it would be about $30 a day, and then times that by 2 days, times 4 weeks is $240. That doesn't seem,
Pretty low.
is there a happy medium?
As opposed to a monthly, could we do it as a daily?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, I would like to move towards, for me, I'm hoping that we move towards city staff not having to police this every day.
I would call it $25 a day. And if he has Carnival a couple of days and then Princess shows up and does that, and does Celebrity, he's emailing us the counts of the number of tours he's doing. So we have a paper trail as to what days he's going to be out there.
Our lease spaces are due the first of the month, prior. So if I'm renting a space from the city, it's due then.
This is an encroachment permit, it's not a lease.
So if I take 10 people, which is, we're getting to that season where I'm gonna take very few people, and I make $300 from Carnival, almost every penny, not including what I have to pay in wages, goes to you guys for just 10 people?
You don't need a big truck for 10 people, do you?
I don't have their, all their sizes. I need to have some gear that's extra that doesn't necessarily fit. And not everything can fit. People's bodies are all different.
You're using a smaller truck before though, right?
With a couple trucks, yeah.
Smaller trucks, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
25. 45. Yeah. We're just trying to look for a parking
I mean,
citation.
I hope you realize that this council is being, I believe, very fair. You know, there were times you probably didn't think things are as fair as we are trying to be to make it work. And Cindy says it best. But, you know, the resolution is something that some of us have been pushing for. I mean, I think we all have it now. We're just getting down to the nuts and bolts. And I think it's taken some give and take. I mean, this whole process has cost us all a lot of money.
Oh, I know.
You know, and so I would really like this to come out tonight and be done. So you're coming up with, you're working with your magic calculator there, Ben?
He's texting somebody.
I don't set the policy. I mean, we had discussed, I mean, various numbers. The suggestion is that two things I think you need to keep in mind with this.
Yeah.
Two important things. Your precedence, okay, and fairness and impact to the other business operators in the community. So whatever you do, I mean, as your staff, we're going to have to figure out some type of mechanism to potentially allow for something like this for somebody else, right? Because you said, hey, I'm gonna create this model, which is fine. That's our job, is to figure out how to administer it. But help us. You know, we have certain things in place currently that give us some framework to operate under, and that's why we were suggesting, just to keep things uniform, we have a lease amount that you deliberated and decided. Okay, you do also have an encroachment permit fee amount. You can put something so that it's somewhat uniform, so that when in the future somebody else says, hey, I've got this concept, you allow for this model for this particular business owner, I'd like to do something similar at this location, what can you offer me? So that's what I asked you for.
If we're offering them the same business model, we're also taxing our harbor department with a lot of overhead and attention that they're going to
Yes.
have to.
Code enforcement and harbor patrol, absolutely.
On a daily basis, they're going to be taxed with all this, and our harbor department is pretty busy to begin with, so they're going to be, if there's 3 businesses like this, and there's 3 vehicles like this, and we're only talking about one right now.
We always have to think about the next person in line. So that's all.
So we're setting a precedence now. We don't have a maximum capacity of how many people can be in Lover's Cove. So basically, you can have four tours with 48 people, and then if you have 2 other tour businesses doing the same thing, we're going to run into a problem of space out there, because then we will not have space for the public to pull up on their golf carts and park and go for a swim.
So that is correct, and each encroachment permit that comes to the council will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and at some point in time, the council can determine that the area is saturated, and we cannot have any more. And then again, these permits are renewable every year.
Or the encroachment permit is granted to provide service to cruise lines, cruise ships, and it's unlikely cruise ships will have more than one vendor to provide a particular tour. And so if Mr. Lieberman was to lose Carnival and someone else came in, he would, and we could condition his encroachment permit that he maintains his contract with Carnival. I mean, I think it's kind of unique in this particular sense, and I think you need to work it through. I don't see us opening a floodgate because, like I said, I don't think Carnival is going to contract with 3 different scuba tour people. Yeah.
Did I hear you, reiterate this for me, did I hear you say that the only tours that you're doing, aside from maybe the diving, is with the cruise ships?
The only tours?
The only
At Lover's
snorkeling
Cove?
tours on this level, this of what we're discussing, is only 2 days a week, only for the cruise ships?
Cruise ships. I do not do anything else there. Only cruise ships.
But do you work with Celebrity and Princess and such? So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily just Monday and Tuesday. It's when cruise ships are in town. I think if we can incorporate that into whatever the encroachment permit we come up with, then I think you've now focused it down to where it's specific to
2 days.
Well, to the days that cruise ships are here.
The days any cruise ships here.
And whoever we provide contracts with.
And then would you condition that to be that if the cruise ship contract changed to another provider, that this encroachment will go away?
Yes, I would.
What do you think?
Yeah. If I have no cruise ship business, there's no reason for me to be at Lover's Cove. I can do it all at Casino Point.
So now we're just coming down with a cost per day.
for cruise ship. Where I park that truck, I pay $1,000 for the year. And you're talking about 900 a month?
No.
No, we're talking, no.
How much?
Where do you pay 1,000 a year? Island Company, Casino Place.
Yeah, it's just right over there.
The dirt
The
lot.
place that I'm probably gonna get.
That's not as attractive as Lover's Cove.
That's right where Bonds is now.
What was,
It'd be
what was-
$216.50 a month.
what did the lease generate in the past for that piece of real estate out there? That old.
Years ago?
The old dive truck that used to be out there, how much, money used to be
I'm trying to find out that.
used to be generated by that? And are we going backward? I mean,
We just have summer and winter rates, then also, and
So it fluctuates.
Mr. Lieberman, that kind of stretched out over, his business stretched further and further, and that's, was a problem.
okay, because there's a set precedent set there in the past as what that real estate was worth. So if we're getting less money now, is that, I'm not saying that's a bad thing,
Less money and more people.
but I'm saying it's a new thing that we have to discuss right now.
Well, we also weren't collecting harbor use fees back then, because that was not part of the harbor use.
Okay.
Because what it was the harbor use was defined as harbor. And now we've expanded that to include all waters in Avalon. Because we had, when the Island Company opened up Descanso, that's not part of the harbor. And so we needed to capture all the activity that's within Avalon there. So we expanded the definition to include Avalon waters.
That makes sense. Well, can we throw out 25 feet a day, 25 bucks a day?
Yeah.
Treating it like an encroachment permit application cost?
Encroachment fee per day.
Encroachment fee?
So if you did two days a week, actually it's less than, I was doing $30, which would be $240 a month, so it'd be probably about $200 a month for an encroachment fee, but that limits you to Mondays and Tuesdays.
No?
Well, no,
Cruise ship days.
if he
Well, there's
cruise
a
ship
ship
days.
coming
Oh,
this Saturday.
if there's
There's
a
a Saturday one or.
Saturday cruise ship or something.
You're just suggesting a per day encroachment
Right.
permit
Correct.
fee charge.
Yeah.
Right.
And if
I
we
think
get all
so.
this rain that we're supposed to get, I won't be working much this winter.
You won't be paying much then either. Okay, would you like a motion?
John Bryan.
But does the
then
motion do any good if
also-
he doesn't agree to it?
John Bryan would like to say something.
John Bryan's right up there.
Yeah. Brian?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify the time of the waterside permit. Scott had said something about 14 months. All waterside permits expire in December and are renewed in January. And I just want to make sure that this one comes back for review in January, just like every other permit does.
That was my request, yeah. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
I think part of the negotiation was so that he wouldn't have to come back in 2 months, that we'd just do this for 14 months.
I think.
For this one.
we
For
wanna
this
re-
one.
we wanna
And then he
review
has to come back
5.
next year.
Then they'd have to go yearly after that.
Right.
I think we want to review condition 5 at the end of the year.
Correct.
But the permit itself is
the
be good
permit
for
would carry
14
through.
months.
Yes. So
Yeah.
it's a 14 and a half month permit with the water, with the hours of the vehicle being reviewed in January when all the other permits are renewed, but just that condition. The proposal would be that you would have a waterside permit through 2016.
Okay.
But after 2 months of operating with the time of 30, 45, 30, when the other waterside permits in the city are renewed, the council would consider whether it should modify your time based upon how it goes the next 2 months.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, and $25 a day, hide your sign. Now, okay, so if he has 2 tours, it doesn't matter if he's there, because one's an hour and 45 minutes, and then he can be there again another hour and 45 minutes with that second group. Okay.
unless they overlap.
Is that per day that I have a tour, or per
Yes.
day of the month?
Per day that you were servicing people in Lovers Cove.
Scott?
And,
Oh, sorry, Mayor. Could I ask for clarification on the discharge permit, since I'm in charge of those? And is there a fee attached to that, like all the other people that have a
Yes,
discharge permit?
yes, he's paid the fee. I think it was,
Last year was, or a year
I-
and a half before, was $300 and something dollars.
I thought, for
have
some
not
reason,
seen
I'm
it, so I
thinking
don't
it's
know.
$400.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but
Could
but
I
he,
get a copy of that, please?
yes.
Thank you.
okay, are we doing the thing where he drops it off with the big truck and then brings in the autoet?
No, we're gonna let them
We're just gonna let him.
try them for 2 months, see what
Okay.
that does.
Okay.
Try that for 2 months.
Okay.
And I'll try and do that as much as I can. I've been doing that, like I said, for the last 2 weeks.
Okay, how about the precedents we're setting with the truck, the size of the truck? Can we say timeout on that, no bigger? I mean, because the next person could come in with a semi-truck and say, okay, this is my
I
diving truck.
think that's a whole issue we have to address in the vehicle code because there's some concerns that he
And
had
if
a
some-
legitimate oversized vehicle and he upsized it,
I
which
mean,
the
we
code
went,
doesn't cover that.
we went from from some really small vehicles to this bobtail. It's huge, it's an eyesore, in that pristine area, but if it's what you need to, for your business to function effectively and efficiently, and we're setting a new precedence for that area. And I don't think it's a great thing, but I think your business is a pretty good business, and in the spirit of goodwill, if you operate under the conditions that we're setting forth and you do it to the best of your ability, I think we're willing to work with you. But if the guidelines and the structure and the laws and the ordinances that the city has in place are ignored, well then, you know, we're gonna have to take a different recourse on this in the future. Do you understand that clearly?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is comment from the public? Okay, thank you, Dave. Is,
So then, can we just go through all of this again and list it out? Ole, I think you were prepared to,
Make a motion?
I was gonna move to grant the water size permit and grant the encroachment permit with a daily fee of $25 per day of use. The sign be covered while in Lovers Cove. We're gonna review the vehicle's necessity in January of next year. What else do we have?
We're going to have, in addition to all the conditions attached to the report, that the release agreement between the city and him will be prepared and executed, that he continues to obtain a discharge permit, and that he provide the harbor master with a daily list of the number of people taking the tour.
And all the normal conditions of the harbor site permit.
does that look like a,
and then also just a clarification that any, I mean, does it make sense to just charge per the cruise ship days coming in, so we know that there's, whether he has the tour or not?
Oh,
And
good.
then what about if he has other tours at other times, we're gonna collect upon that? Because he's emailing the harbor master to tell him what days he has tours if it's outside of a cruise
Harbor
ship
master's
day.
gonna know the schedule.
And it's 25 for each day he has a tour, and an additional condition that the encroachment permit is limited, and harbor use permit are limited to tours emanating from cruise ships.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, and then if the cruise ship
Got
goes
it.
away,
Okay.
the encroachment goes away.
okay?
I'll move that.
I've got a question. Let's say there's a day out there when there's a bunch of golf carts out there, people, bicycles, and that space is all taken up. What are we gonna do then?
Well, he'll
Where
have
does
to
he
park
park?
further away.
What if there is no parking further away? What, are you talking at the mall? Are you talking, what do we do then?
Has that ever been a problem?
We've always been able, you can go past, towards Abilene Point, but not all the way to the K-rails. It's never been a problem. We've been able to offer our stuff.
$60 an hour, people don't want to go snorkeling in their rented golf cart.
There's a lot of residents that use that.
Yeah, well, there is.
Well, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second, and it, including all of the sign and all
Yeah,
that's been
yeah,
included,
yes.
okay.
Yes. Further discussion? Let's call for the vote.
All ayes.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then, just as, I just want to make sure we got through the vote. So we've, all of the prior use fees, financials, all
yes,
that stuff
he's
has
paying for
all
that.
been
Yes.
taken care of?
Yep.
He's been audited, everything's been
Yes.
on the up and up?
Yes, he's paying, is, part of the settlement is a $7,500 check to the city to pay for the past harbor use fees.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. All righty, and now we will be going into closed session.
And we have a closed session to discuss the labor negotiations with the 3 unions, as well as the liability claim brought by Island Charters / Robert Kennedy.
Okay, thank you, and good night, Tony, if you don't.
Good night, Tony.
Let me.
And we are back from closed session.
No reportable action.
Meeting adjourned.
Oh, God. I actually.